All right, today is Friday, June 5th, around noon, and I figured I'll start something new today, similar to what I did with my screenplays. Two of my concept albums actually, two of my earliest ones. The first concept album I ever wrote and composed the music for, well, in my head at least, on my acoustic guitar, but it might have different orchestration in the future with Songs from the Rhine. That was more like a Decemberist type of approach to a concept album. And that was around 2008 through 2011, around that time period. I should start with that one, but I'm more excited to talk about Waitress from Mars, which is my science fiction concept album. It's more aligned with a screenplay that I should have written by now, but I haven't gotten to it. So this album, the reason I said this is like talking about my screenplays is because these two albums are like movies, are like stage plays, whatever they can become in the future. Songs from the Rhine deals with a more medieval folklore element with Lorelei, the siren of the Rhine River in Europe, and a lot of the storylines and folklore and legends that are involved with that type of a folklore appeal, which I really like. And yeah, it's because of the Decemberist. I wrote about that in my book. It's in the first chapter. It's my first concept album that before I even knew what I was doing, not that I really know what I'm doing now either, but when I really didn't know what I was doing, I would write these songs trying to copy the Decemberist, the Hazards of Love that came out during that time. I forget what year it was. And I would try to form songs from that, but it wasn't something I really duplicated ever again. It was a different kind of experience because I was a different person back then. We're talking almost 20 years ago. I probably started writing some of the songs for that one, and I won't talk too much about it because I'll handle it maybe tomorrow or Sunday. That one came out a lot differently than anything else I've ever done since. I was saying yesterday I probably have around 70 albums now with everything I've done since I've been in this location and everything I've done before that. I probably have close to 70 or more. And these two that I'm going to be talking about today is Waitress from Mars. Tomorrow will be Songs from the Rhine. Maybe that one will take longer because it's a double album. But I really want to just handle the story in the book. These are the two outliers, and it's cool they came first above it, before anything else. The first two albums I ever wrote was Songs from the Rhine, parts one and two, and Waitress from Mars. I remember having a. So I'll stop talking about Songs from the Rhine because now I want to talk about that one, but I'll wait till tomorrow. Waitress from Mars is science fiction. Uh, the memory I have that just popped in my head, I was probably like, I don't know, 2008 or 9. I just started working at the Philly Stadium and I had a crappy little red flip phone with the recorder on it. So I would record stuff when I was walking to the stadium. I remember parking my car, and then to get free parking, you have to park like a mile away or so. And in between those little breaks, I would be singing into my phone different melodies. And the Waitress from Mars all came from that. I just had this weird melody going do 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 do, and then it's like a hair metal album. I never knew I could write hair metal music, but that's how it came out. It's very weird. Years later, I learned of Queensryche and Operation Mindcrime, and I was like, this is exactly what I want. Operation Mindcrime is exactly what I modeled this after, but I never even knew it existed. It came after the fact. Songs from the Rhine is basically my attempt to do The Hazards of Love by the Decemberists because I really love that album. I still love it. When I first heard that, that changed my perspective on music. It came with an animation when you bought it on iTunes back then. It had an animation that went along with the music, kind of like Sturgill Simpson's Sound and Fury or Kimbra, Idols and Vices. When you incorporate animation, it makes things a little bit more interesting, I think, from a cinematic appeal. So, Hazards of Love, that's all I was trying to do with Songs from the Rhine. Just keep copying it until you come up with something original. And it took me a long time because that was the first one I ever tried to do. Waitress from Mars was different. Waitress from Mars came out of nowhere, and by the time I got done with it, even up to a couple years ago, it's a hair metal album, so it's more fun to talk about, really. It's less serious. There's a political type of atmosphere to Songs from the Rhine about, class warfare and evil kings and medieval type of politics, feudalism, I guess a little bit. And well, I'll get to that when I get to it. Waitress from Mars is like my 80s tribute, my tribute to 80s science fiction, like Starman, is that the Jeff Bridges one? Or even Howard the Duck that I'll make fun of, but I would watch that all the time as a kid. Like even Ninja Turtles is science fiction. It's made for kids, but you're talking about mutant turtles living in the sewer and they're ninjas. So it's definitely a type of science fiction. As a kid, it's the most imaginative thing you could really think about. Even more than He-Man. He-Man is just, what, Zeus? It's just a rehash of Conan the Barbarian or other mythical, not mythical, but kind of, I guess. I guess Zeus is a kind of myth. Or not Zeus, why am I saying Zeus? Hercules. It's another Hercules, it's another Conan the Barbarian story. But He-Man's science fiction too, I guess. I think they're making a new version of it, which might be interesting, might be terrible, I don't know. But this is my tribute to that type of science fiction, and even though I'm saying the other one might be more political, there is an element of politics to this story as well. Um, I'm not sure how I'm going to approach this when I talk about the songs. Am I just going to read the lyrics? Kind of like practicing for if I do an audiobook, how would I approach reading the lyrics and stuff? I don't know. So I might try to do it here and see how it sounds. But I just want to get through the story because it won't take as long as my screenplays. The story is probably only about 6, 7 pages long, and I wrote it just as a short story. In 2018, after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I got all motivated to do stuff, and I tried to write this as a screenplay, and I failed. I got through like literally 2 pages, and then I just gave up. But when I did the short story, I'm like, all right, now everything's fleshed out. I have these different characters with names. I could write the screenplay now if I wanted to. And I think it could be really interesting as a science fiction. But it's more of a comedy. Guardians of the Galaxy is a good comparison. That's probably the best comparison I can make. Guardians of the Galaxy, which I loved. I thought it was really well done. Maybe I saw the sequel with Kurt Russell, I think so. I like those movies better than Marvel. I think Marvel takes itself way too seriously. they get way too deep. There's some comedy too. It's not terrible, but I really like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought those were really well done. Those were more fun to watch, almost like Star Wars. That same type of like a lighthearted appeal to it. Great characters and yeah, it was good soundtrack. So you could probably compare what I'm going for with this story to get Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think I set this in the 80s, so it's kind of different. But again, this is all based on the songs. I wrote these, 10 songs, I think. I think it's 10. I wrote these songs before I even knew there was going to be a story attached. I just was trying to write songs, and then I was like, all right, this sounds kind of cool. Waitress from Mars, it sounds like a graphic novel. And I picture like Aubrey Plaza as the waitress from Mars. As I get into the story, when I was writing this, I always pictured her playing the lead character because it is kind of a dry comedy, a dry sense of humor that she kind of perfected. I don't know about anyone else, but that's kind of the main. If this was a graphic novel, the cover of the graphic novel would be some kind of a Martian superhero waitress. And yeah, so that's basically the whole story, that Martian consciousness came to Earth and found human vessels to live inside of, and this waitress is really being her body is just a vessel for this ancient consciousness. So maybe it's a blending of her humanity and this Martian consciousness, or her body was just completely taken over by this Martian consciousness that's millions of years old. And I would assume the point of this story, maybe it's connected to the science fiction of Scientology, the element of that these ancient alien spirits came to Earth and kind of used human beings as vessels. I think there's some story like that. So maybe that was in my head at that point. I don't know. Early 2000s or around 2008, there were some documentaries about Scientology that I probably watched. People exposing some of the negative side of it when they're trying to leave the religion. Or maybe it was that South Park episode when I first learned about Scientology, or Dianetics. And later on, I watched that Philip C. Hoffman, The Master. That movie's amazing. And I think it's loosely based on some of those concepts of Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard. It's not probably, I don't know if Scientologists like that movie, but it's kind of based on that, I think. But I don't know what else to really point towards why I came up with that science fiction concept. It probably had something to do with just that general flavor of maybe we can't define consciousness. I was having a big discussion yesterday with myself about how I don't care about the Big Bang. I don't care about evolution. I try to watch these quantum physicists talk to each other and debate the Big Bang, and it's so hard to keep up with that stuff. Like, who cares? You still can't explain the beginning of everything. If energy never can be created or destroyed, the universe never had a beginning. It doesn't make any sense to the human mind, because as a human body, we're born, we live, and we die. We don't think in terms of immortality, of always being there. That's a concept that we cannot grasp as a human being. There's a finite life inside of a body, but where do you go afterwards and all that stuff? Maybe it is eternal consciousness. Like Black Mirror keeps putting in people's heads about that consciousness transfer, and other science fiction like that. So that's where my head was. Maybe not so much back then. I just wanted to write cool stuff, which is still my motivation now. But back then, I didn't have all this Black Mirror stuff in my head. I don't think I was watching it back then in 2008, 9, 10, 11, when I was writing these first two concept albums. There's a couple other ones that could be made into graphic novels, like Willie the Vegan, which was a newer one from a couple months ago. I mentioned that I'm kind of, when I was writing Willie the Vegan, which is kind of a science fiction story, similar concept about consciousness transfer. I was writing that story and I was reminded of my brain from 20 years ago when I wrote this one. So I'm a different person than I was 20 years ago. I'm a different person than I was 5 months ago, 2 months ago. You're constantly changing some part of your consciousness based on internal factors or external factors. You're constantly evolving, hopefully better than worse. So it's kind of interesting that my brain wrote this story 20 years ago. And then whenever I wrote Willie the Vegan over the winter time, it was the same type of experience almost. Different types of music genre, but the same type of science fiction format. So what is this story really? I got into it a little bit, but basically the general plot line or the log line, ancient Martian consciousness travels the Earth after their planet is destroyed, and now they are preparing Earth to fight that same type of destructive force. Chaos for the sake of chaos. Maybe Mars was not always like that. We view Mars as the red planet of death. It's probably like the hell planet. Is Mars the war of God? No. What is Mars? The war of God? The god of war? I don't know. But you look at Mars and it looks like it's a wasteland, and it looks like a scary science fiction type of place. But what if it was different? Yeah. Well, I was thinking Ares, but that's a different. Is that Greek? Mars is the Roman god of war. So yeah, Mars is a weird. They probably named it Mars because it looked like blood or something, right? I don't know. I'm just guessing, but the Greeks had Ares, yeah. The Romans viewed Mars, the god of war, as an honorable, disciplined, and protective force. The Greeks had Ares, which was more chaotic and destructive. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I never got involved with mythology that much. Maybe there's a bit of that in this story, but I barely know that. In terms of the planets, the solar system, I don't have very much knowledge. I couldn't name all the planets probably, or the order of the planets. I forget all that stuff. My interest in science fiction is just, it's a basis. You could mold the story in science fiction different than other genres. And there's some nerdiness in there, but I don't care who you are. You watch Guardians of the Galaxy, it's just entertaining, man. It's an escape. A movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, there's not much critical thinking, maybe a little bit, but it's just a fun movie. You don't have to think for 2 hours. You can shut your brain off and just be amazed at the visuals. And that's what I'm trying to do with this story. Will I write a screenplay for this? Yeah, I want to. The reason I'm not doing screenplays right now, I talked about it before. If I was getting paid for it, I'd be doing it every day, 12 hours a day. When you don't get paid for your work, you don't have motivation to do anything. I'm barely wanting to do this right now. I had to force myself to try to get these words out because I spent about, a month doing this with all my screenplays, and not that I didn't enjoy it. It was good to revisit those stories, those characters, but my intent in doing something like that was twofold, which I just said, to remind myself of these stories, to see how they exist now a year later. Well, since I've read them, but I wrote these maybe 3, 4 years ago. And secondly, yeah, just to give people more detail about what I'm going for. A story like this, it could be a screenplay, a feature film. You could have sequels, Waitress from Mars, and it could be like half Ninja Turtle type of deal, which, because it's such a weird concept, there's a waitress living among human beings, but she's really just a vessel for this Martian spirit who's been around Earth for millions of years, floating around from person to person and living out whatever agenda it has disguised inside of a person. When people think aliens are among us, they always think they're physical beings that can change their appearance, or other science fiction like that. Lizard people taking over the government. Other stories I've maybe explored in the Twilight Zone or something, where aliens are actually living amongst human beings as disguised, but you still think about it as a physical entity. In this story, it's just an alien consciousness, whatever that means. I don't know. Is that a soul? Is that what the soul is? Your consciousness? Is your consciousness just a secular way? Because people don't want to say the word soul because it's too religious. So people just say consciousness. I don't know, man. It's got to be some connection. Some people just don't want to have any religious symbolisms. They don't even want to say spirit. It's too witchy. They don't want to say the word soul because it's too religious. It's too romantic. If you just say consciousness, then you're talking about science. You never hear the word soul in science fiction too much, but I like blending the two together, because religion and science, I always said they don't have to compete against each other, even though they were kind of enemies throughout the history of humanity, where usually religion would kill scientists who they deemed as heretics or whatever if they didn't agree with their version of physics or the universe or whatever. And yeah, you would die for that shit. So I could see why science and religion had a history of that, but it's different today. They're both trying to answer questions. Science is maybe more open about how we don't know anything. When I was researching what happened before the Big Bang, and that's my brain right now is leading me to that direction. How could the universe always exist regardless of the Big Bang? Where did the nothing come from? Just to have anything alive, how can nothing turn into something? Nothing is a thing. Nothing is still nothing. It's not like the Big Bang came from nothing. It came from something. I don't know. I'm getting weird with these thoughts too, but that's why I always get mad when I hear people debate evolution or the Big Bang or creationism. It's like, who cares, man? Your theory is just a theory, just like that theory is just a theory. There's no proof on it. There's any side of the religious side of creationism. It's just faith. There's no proof with the Big Bang. It's just whatever scientific theory points to that. But there's nothing, either science or religion can't prove anything else. Whether you say, how could God always exist, or how could the universe always exist? Without a beginning, without an ending, our brains can't comprehend that. Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about that, where people were like asking him, well, if the Big Bang really happened, what happened before the Big Bang to lead up to that? Did it come from a different universe, multi-universe? Whatever. I'm not smart enough to talk any farther than that. But even he says, we don't know, we're working on it. So at least I respect that. I respect that more than, well, it's faith because it's written in a book. That's the truth. Like, my brain doesn't work like that. If you want to believe that, that's fine. I'm not making fun of people because sometimes it could feel like that, but I just don't think anyone knows the answer, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't keep me up at night, but that's the only mystery worth really debating. How did the universe really start? Because the Big Bang doesn't answer anything. It might show the process of how it formed and how it was organized in this chaotic way that somehow works, but it doesn't prove any of the other mysteries at all. But I don't really get into that in this story, but I'm just talking about science fiction in general, I guess. Maybe that's the reason I got the urge to do this today, even though I don't feel like doing this. Last night I kept thinking about that, and I started listening to people talk about time travel and all that stuff that's great for science fiction, but I don't really understand. I don't understand string theory in detail. The general concept, maybe, about multiverse and parallel universes, that's all great for science fiction. One of the talks I heard about time travel, the guy kept saying, well, you can't go back in time, but you could go forward, and then the furthest you could go back from the future is when time travel was invented. So you can't go back in time and change things. That's what he was talking about, the paradoxes that come with science fiction and time travel. But I don't know if that movie Arrival kind of was about time as a circle, time as a cycle. I don't really know too much more than that. The movie Arrival, which I was a fan of, Amy Adams, I thought that was pretty well done. But the philosophy and about time being more of a circle, I remember that as being one of the themes. Time as a circle. Like, I'm not going to talk about Interstellar, that's too complicated. And yeah, so in Arrival, that movie's not that old. If you never saw it, go check it out. The movie Arrival, time is visualized as a circle to represent the non-linear, eternal perception of time of the alien's experience. So time is visualized as a circle to represent the non-linear, eternal perception of time that the aliens, the heptapods, experience, because these aliens perceive the past, present, and future simultaneously. Their language appears as circular logograms, with no definitive beginning or end. That's from the Los Angeles Review that I got from Google. I'm just repeating what they wrote. That kind of very interesting. If you could experience life in that, I don't know how to really conceive of that, how to comprehend that, because we're built to go to work and do a task and live in the moment and deal with unexpected things that happen in the present. We don't live our life thinking, or we might think about the past in terms of regrets and memories, nostalgia, but do we perceive the past, present, and future all together? That's a crazy thought. I don't know how to really organize that in my brain. You can make a 5-year plan and want to live in the future. I'm trying to do that right now. I have a 20-year plan to make all my music a reality by the time I'm in my 60s in the next 20 years. But do I live in the future as I live today in this present moment? No, I can think about the future. I don't know what this really means. These aliens are perceiving every aspect of time simultaneously. And that's why they write their language in the movie as these like logos, almost like Chinese characters or Japanese language. I don't know, man. It's kind of like the theory of everything. I don't know. What is that even? Even though I'm a fan of science fiction, I'm not that big of a nerd to have gone in depth about these things. The theory of everything. It was a movie. I thought it was like a book by science fiction. Jane Hawkins. All right, it's about Stephen Hawking. Yeah. The theory of everything is 2014. It is about Stephen Hawking. All right. But I don't think I saw this movie. I think I just know the title of the book like that. Um, but there's another movie. I was really trying to think of something else. Everything, Everywhere at Once. Everything, all the time. What's that movie called? Everything, Everywhere at Once. Yeah, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. One of my favorite movies of the last few years. 2022. I think it won maybe Best Picture or something. Really, really interesting movie about, from what yeah, you're kind of going into different universes. It's really, really one of the best science fiction movies because it's put in a way that's not very nerdy. It's easily relatable to the characters in the movie. I would really recommend that one. I think it did win a bunch of awards. It became, yeah, all right, yeah, it became the most awarded film in cinematic history, winning 7 Academy Awards, Best Picture. All right, so yeah, this is a very well-known movie. I didn't know it won all these awards: Best Director, Actress, Supporting, Screenplay, Film Editing. So yeah, I guess I don't need to talk about how good it is. People probably already watched it. So you can keep those in mind as I go through the story. It's not going to take long. When I was reading my screenplays, it would take me about 6 hours to get through it, talking about the characters and themes and plot lines, and reading the screenplay, whether it was 60 pages or 100 pages. Yeah, it would usually take me about 6 hours throughout the day to do it all. But this is different. It's just a short story. I'm going to read from my book now. This is the preface of the album. Like I said, this is one of the earliest concept albums I ever thought of, even though it wasn't a concept album until way later, up until 2022 when I wrote this story out. It's very reliant on satirical science fiction and other dystopian political drama. So there definitely is a political element to this. Um, in the book, if I'm reading from my book right now, the preface to this album, and how I set up my book, I would write the lyrics and the songs first, and then I would talk about the story afterwards. But this album is more like a comic book, really, more than anything else I've done. It's written just like a comic book, a graphic novel, which is different type of lyricism that I've ever done before. Um, Maybe that's apparent to me because I'm used to my style and I had to force myself to be less vague and be more writing my lyrics like it's a real story almost. It's similar to Willie the Vegan, though. Willie the Vegan had a similar type of thing where I was like, I want to write this as a story, but I don't want to write each song like a plot line, like Willie the Vegan does this and then he does this. It was more just about the themes I'm trying to explore. Maybe that's about this too, because it's about like groupthink and mind control. That's why I talked about the dystopian flavor from Orwell and Brave New World and those books that I grew up with, even up to The Man in the High Castle, watching that probably around that time, maybe a little bit later, I don't know. That's Philip K. Dick, I think. Recently, I watched I, Robot with Will Smith. It was all right. From way back a while ago, but you could see how these concepts constantly come up because people back then were having these same conversations about artificial intelligence. Industrial Revolution had the same political turnout or fallout, better word. Industrial Revolution people had to fight for workers' rights. People had to fight to not be viewed as just cogs in a machine, because that's what it was doing to people. And that's still a reality. It's not anything like we grew out of that. That's still a reality for a lot of people. Uh, I also mentioned before, I did try to write this into a screenplay in 2018, but back then I wasn't ready to really take this on. And I think I could do it now because even when I wrote this book, I just got done writing my 15 screenplays in that time period. And I was much more different in my approach to it than I was in 2018. 2018, I would go to work, I'd come home around 6 or 7, and I'd try to write until I fell asleep. But I was having a lot of bad habits back then. I was still eating bad food and smoking and doing other stuff that really didn't get me as motivated as I am today. And the last thing I wrote in the book leading up to this, in the preface, was there is a symbolic element where there's a red consciousness and a blue consciousness. And a lot of people would probably take that like I'm trying to write some metaphor about the Republican and Democratic parties of the United States, but it's nothing to do with that. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm nothing. I had a big talk last night about that too, why I don't want to be a member of a religion. The tribalism is not attractive to me, but maybe that's why I can't get anywhere in life, because I don't have a tribe. I want to make art as organically as possible. I'm not just saying that to be pretentious. I don't want to have a political angle to make this group happy, this group unhappy. I don't want to have any political bias in my life, which is impossible, but you want to limit it at least, right? The living in isolation led me to that realization that I don't need to live through what the news is telling me, what the political world is what the internet's so enraged about. I don't need to pay attention to that stuff, and I learned not to. Since COVID, at least, I forced myself to get there. So when I talk about these red and blue consciousness, the only reason I picked those colors was because I wanted, it's not really a spoiler alert, I wanted Mars to become a purple planet at the end of the movie. Instead of a red planet, it would become a purple planet, which is a different type of a symbolic. It has nothing to do with like states that become purple states. Like, I think Virginia goes back and forth. They're blue and then they're red. They're blue and red. There's certain states that kind of go back and forth between a red state and blue state. But that's not what I'm going for here. I just thought to end this movie with the Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze as Mars becomes a purple planet. I think that would be a cool way to end this story. And if there's a sequel, then you could build off of that. But I haven't thought about what the story would be for a sequel. I'm still trying to get this one fully realized more than I'm doing right now. And I guess I'll go through. I don't know how to really go about this. I think what I'm going to do is read the story first. I'm going to read the story first, and then I'll read the lyrics to my 10 songs. And maybe if I do it like that, I'll realize myself that there's some connection. Each song and the order of the songs and everything. So I'm going to read the story now, and it's not that long. It's not like reading a screenplay. I wrote this as a short story, and it's only maybe 7 or 8 pages, so it shouldn't take long. To begin with, the origin and inspiration. Where did I get all these ideas from? Musically, the main inspiration was from 80s hair metal, especially Operation Mindcrime, 1988 album by Queensryche. I didn't hear that album until around 2008, which is when I had that first idea in my head for Waitress from Mars. The dun 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 dun. And Operation Mindcrime became one of my favorite albums. Around that time, maybe a couple of years later, when I learned about the story, the politics, the mind control, it was a lot like Pink Floyd The Wall for me, in terms of a political dystopian where people aren't viewed as individuals, they're viewed as cogs in a machine, which is the wall, really, right? Another brick in the wall. The symbolism of Pink Floyd The Wall, or an album like Operation Mindcrime, which is less subtle, I think. Operation Mindcrime is really good. I'm not a big hair metal guy. I usually make fun of hair metal. That genres come and go. Ska will come back for like a fourth wave of ska. There'll be different types of R&B and hip hop forever. There'll be different punk music. Will hair metal ever come back? I don't think so. I think hair metal became different types of heavy metal. But hair metal, in terms of Bon Jovi and even Queensryche, I don't think that will ever come back. I just think it's, and I don't want to say they're not talented people. Like, you could look at Randy Rhoads. Ozzy, when he did some of his stuff, was more hair metal than like the Black Sabbath psychedelic stuff. But yeah, of course, these people are crazy talented. But when you think of hair metal, you think of Cherry Pie and Warrant and a lot of those bands from the 80s. I don't even want to make fun of them. They did what they did. They were talented people. Was Van Halen, were they hair metal? Because they probably have the best guitarist of all time. So I'm not making fun of this genre. Maybe I'm a little bit. I just don't see it making a resurgence because it was such a, like, what is it going to evolve into? I don't know. Maybe it became some other form of heavy metal, I guess. But like, you could point to new wave music like Joy Division and The Cure and say that became emo, that became, I don't know, post punk or something. There's elements of that, but where did hair metal go? I don't know. And I'm pretty big into music, but I don't know where hair metal. I don't think it really evolved into anything else. Death metal is death metal, black metal, new metal. I don't see hair metal really in a lot of those things, but I don't know. I don't know enough about that music, to be honest. I'm sure there's people that still love that music. People will consider some Metallica, even thrash metal, kind of hair metal, but I'm talking about the cheesy 80s bands that are just talking about getting laid, which is fine. Like Sebastian Bach had one of the best voices ever. I'm not saying that music is invaluable. I just don't think it will emerge again in a different iteration of it. Ska music seems to always come back every 20 years or so. A different version of it, or reggae, hip hop. There's some genres that won't disappear because they're just there. I would include punk rock. I would include, well, yeah, jazz, classical, of course. People will always build on those and try to create something different from the past. But I don't know if hair metal works the same way as a genre. I already told that story. When I was walking to the Philly Stadium, that's when I first came up with the first song idea and some other ones that week. A lot of these songs came out within a couple of days. Um, and even though I will write this as a screenplay at some point, it's more of a graphic novel. It's more of a cinematic experience, even more than Songs from the Rhine. Songs from the Rhine, I view it more as almost like a stage play or an animation. And hopefully this one could work when I write this screenplay. I want it to work as live action. It could work as an animation with the CGI of today and the way they can make everything look real. But because I love old movies from the 80s, science fiction movies, I think it would be better to have real actors in this one. But I don't know. Maybe animation will be the way, because I did mention that when I wrote this. The reason animation would be cool, to contradict what I just said, to play devil's advocate, is because you can do anything without any restrictions on your imagination. But the main vision, whether it's an animation or live actors, it's a satirical sci-fi saga about a man who falls in love with a waitress at his local diner. The waitress is really a vessel for a super powerful Martian spirit who is on a mission to protect humanity from a more sinister Martian consciousness. Or it doesn't even have to be that. See, the way I picture this, and before I get to that, the other inspiration in terms of the music is Electric Light Orchestra, their 1981 album Time, which kind of really connected to at least two of these songs, like completely led to the creation of it. More of the mellow acoustic stuff is based on the 1981 Electric Light Orchestra Time, which is an amazing album. Listen to Twilight. It's some of the best produced music ever made from 1981. Like, it's on par with Dark Side of the Moon production, Alan Parsons stuff. I think Electric Light Orchestra, at least with Time and maybe El Dorado, those two are perfect classic concept albums. So you could see where my head was even back then. I didn't know ELO Time until maybe 2020s. But when I went back to visit this album in 2022, that album kept popping up in my head. And I included it on my favorite albums of all time, Electric Light Orchestra, Time. And it is kind of a science fiction flavor. There's a trip to the moon or a song like that. Really good album. If you never listen to ELO Time, go check it out. If you only know their hits, I think people would be really surprised at how good that album is. But what was I talking about before that? All right, so the whole basis of this was that, and I mentioned it kind of before, you can tell I didn't outline this talk. I just kind of went, all right, let me talk about this stupid story for like an hour and see where it goes. The planet Mars was a lot like Earth. It had plenty of life. It was blue, green, just like the planet Earth. And it got infected by this alien consciousness that took over the planet, and it destroyed the planet, turned it into the red monstrosity. Even though there's a beauty in it, I'm sure if you look at Mars through a super powerful telescope, it looks beautiful. But people named it Mars because it probably has that bloody type of appeal. It looks like a bloody planet with a red haze. If I Google that, what would come up? Why did they name it Mars? Just because it's red? Why did they... I'm guessing it's a simple answer, that because it's a red planet. Because the planet shines with this glowing reddish color, Early civilizations associated Mars with blood and fire. So it's almost like a hell. The Romans named the planet Mars after the deity of war, like I talked about before. And the mythological father of Rome's founders, Romulus and Remus. I should know this stuff because I used to be interested in Roman history, the Roman Empire stuff, but I forgot all about this. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. It's pretty self-explanatory. The planet Mars gets its signature red color from iron minerals, iron oxide in its surface, dirt and rocks, which rusted over billions of years. So yeah, these Mars, some of the consciousness on Mars, maybe they were physical beings, but they knew how to separate their physical bodies from their consciousness, and to escape whatever this plunder was, this alien virus that it tries to take over a planet just to destroy it. The chaos candidate. What's that from? It's from something. I'm not making that up. There's some phrase like the chaos candidate. Maybe that's involved with politics. I don't know. But yeah, you could view it like that. This alien virus will take over a planet and very quickly will destroy it. And that maybe Mars was able to have life billion years ago. I think that's an interesting concept. And it's a good warning because even though Earth looks as beautiful as Earth looks from space, when you see it from a spaceship, it's a pale blue dot with oceans and life, and it glows like this beacon of safety. Come visit the planet Earth. We have breathable air and we have water and life. A bunch of assholes do live here, but if you want to take a couple days and visit Earth, you'll probably survive. You probably won't get killed. Come explore Earth. Like if that in the future, if we discover other universes and we communicate with other well, they'll be aliens to us, but they'll think we're aliens. And you're trying to make a tourist campaign for the planet Earth. Come to planet Earth. What's the slogan? You'll probably won't die if you spend a week in Earth. Just hang out. Uh, stay away from certain areas because people like to kill each other. I don't know what the motto would be. I'm not an advertising person to create a slogan like that. Come to planet Earth. You'll probably be okay. I don't know. Like, what would the tagline be for Mars? Like, all right, let me just get to this stupid story. In the book, every chapter I wrote in my book, I would close my prefaces with a quote. So there's probably 50 some quotes in the book from lyrics and other stuff. And this one I chose from the ELO song, The Way Life's Meant to Be from 1981, that album Time. And the lyric is, and when I see what was done to this place that was home, shame is all that I feel. All right. I'm going to talk about the story now, or not talk about it, I'm going to read the story. And this will be a good practice for me because it's different than screenplays. There's no dialogue. I don't think there is. I think I wrote just the narration to explain the story. I don't think I had these characters speak any lines of dialogue. I don't know how to write short stories too much. Recently, I read Elmore Leonard, The Switch, and what was the other thing? I read Hunter S. Thompson, Rum Punch, or the Rum Diaries. Yeah, I'm thinking Elmore Leonard, Rum Punch. I read Hunter S. Thompson, The Rum Diaries, which was pretty quick. It took me maybe 2 days. It's pretty easy to read. And then I watched the movie with Johnny Depp. It was all right. I wasn't really upset with anything. It was well done. Um, but you learn more about those are, I guess they're considered novels, but they're only maybe 250 pages. So they're almost like short stories. Um, and how would I write a short story in terms of the dialogue and how to write stuff like that? I would follow people like that, I think. I don't read a lot anymore. I was trying to get back in the habit this week, reading that story and then reading Wanda Coleman, the LA poet. I was trying to read some of her stuff. Some of it really hit me. It was really just out in your face, like punk rock. I respect that. It's just right in your face. It doesn't care about being obscene or saying the wrong thing, like the Fela Kuti attitude. Just say what you want to say. Don't be filtered by anybody. It's hard to live like that and survive in this day and age of political correctness and shit. But you have to live like that as an artist, especially. You have to explore every side of humanity, and I'm not even like 10% in the game of exploring stuff. I've lived in the same place for like my entire life. As an artist, you should probably travel around the fucking world, but I'm just trying to travel to across the United States at this point. I'm trying to go to California, get a different perspective on things, or the Southwest around there. It gives people a new perspective when people do that, when they make a life-changing move like that. But that's not the only reason I'm doing it. I'm doing it more for where do I see myself in 20 years? Where do I want to live out the rest of my life? And you might as well make a move like that at this point. When you're my age in your 40s, you're not going to move that many more times. And it's a little bit easier for me because I don't have kids. I don't have possessions. I don't own anything. So it's not as difficult for me as it is for other people, but I don't think I have enough life experience um, to explore different things. Like I'm never going to write a romantic comedy. I've never had a relationship. I don't believe in romance and all that shit. Maybe I did in my youth a little bit. I was just trying to get ass back then. But I don't really believe in the romance and all that shit. It doesn't really make sense unless it's in a movie. Then it seems to be real at that point. So I don't think there's a reason I don't write love songs. I don't write romantic comedies. Maybe I have some ideas for some in the future, but I haven't really explored that genre of in song or in the screenwriting format. I don't really because I don't have knowledge of that world. It's like how am I going to write a story about Middle Eastern politics? I'm not associated with the Middle East. All I know is what people tell me on the news, what other people around me tell me, why there's constant warfare, why people hate each other. But I can never write about it because it's such a complicated issue. I would even feel weird having characters in my story that if it dealt with topics like that, because that's a tough thing to write. Uh, I said that when I was doing this with my screenplays, I made that realization. When I first started, I would say, "Oh, this is John." When I would introduce a character, he's a white guy, he's a black guy, he's a Puerto Rican, he's a Mexican, man, female. But now I don't really do that. I think I went back and just left it vague as possible from a marketing angle so it could work for any actor, any actress. You might have to change some things. Like, it's good I mentioned Elmore Leonard and the Rum Punch, right? Wasn't that some of his stories led to Jackie Brown, Quentin Tarantino? And I still say to today, Jackie Brown's my favorite Tarantino movie by far. Like, I don't really love Pulp Fiction like other people. Reservoir Dogs, maybe I'll watch it every decade because it doesn't do a lot for me. It's not a bad movie. It's just, I'm never excited to watch it. The only Tarantino movies I've purchased were Django, because I really like Django, and Jackie Brown. I don't think that story was originally with the black woman with the lead role, like Pam Grier's character. Maybe Ordell, because he's in the other book, the Switch, which I haven't finished yet. Ordell, which was Samuel L. Jackson, he's in that book too. And the De Niro character, whatever his name is, Lewis, yeah, Lewis, I think. But yeah, you could change things around. That's the cool thing about that. When I watched the Rum Diaries, the screenwriter totally changed that story. He got rid of some characters. He switched things around. In the book, I think they kill the editor or the newspaper owner, Lauderman, or whatever his name was. I think they find him outside a bar and kill him, and he has a heart attack and dies. In the book, or in the movie, sorry, in the movie, I don't think it happens like that. I think there's something different. I forget now, but yeah, I forget how it happens. I think they changed the ending too, and they tried to make it more relatable to Hunter S. Thompson's life, since it's kind of based on him, kind of. I think he had some career in Puerto Rico early on as a journalist. So of course he's going to write about that. You're supposed to write about things you know about, right? As a writer. But when it comes to science fiction, there is nothing like that. When you talk about science fiction, you can explore anything, and it doesn't have to be based on any factual elements. There doesn't have to be political correctness at all. You can explore whatever you want to explore, and it might not be as subtle as you want it to be. If you're trying to make it about a political topic, you can make a science fiction movie about Israel and Palestine, that there's two alien civilizations fighting over a piece of land, or blood rivalry like that, and try to form a way to come to a peaceful resolution in the movie. But that's what I would have to do, because I can't write about the Middle East because I don't know enough about it. But I could take science fiction and write a story like that, develop characters and a similar type of cultural conflict with an alien civilization, whatever. Almost like Planet of the Apes kind of did that. Which I mentioned Planet of the Apes before. I watched that very young in my life, and that was pretty foundational. Where I didn't know you could have a surprise ending. That was probably the first time I watched that, where I'm like, all right, this is just a cool story about human beings and apes fighting for supremacy. You know, I'm probably not even in high school, I guess. But then you get to the end and you realize the Statue of Liberty, that it's really Earth, and that these ape people probably took over after we killed each other. Doesn't Charlton Heston say something like that? Like, damn it to hell. I forget. Damn you, Dr. Sayers. Dr. Sayers, Dr. Sayers. There's got to be something like that. The closing line of Planet of the Apes. Damn you all to hell. I'm probably misremembering it. Because now I think of Charlton Heston as just the NRA guy. My cold, dead hands. That's probably the last time I saw that guy say anything. Was because he was the head of the NRA, wasn't he? Charlton Heston, ending of Planet of the Apes. I feel like he has a line like that probably is very memorable, but I don't remember it. Ending line. Hopefully this is worth looking up, because it's kind of, I don't know if this is gonna, okay, let's see what Google says. Wow, that was way back in 1968, dude. 1968, that's so cool. 1968 is like one of the best years for music. Maybe it's like that for movies too. The ending of the 1968 film Planet of the Apes. Charlton Heston's character, George Taylor, well, real original name there, discovers the ruins of the Statue of Liberty on a desolate beach. Realizing the planet is a post-apocalyptic Earth, and he falls to his knees screaming, Oh my God, I'm back. I'm home. All the time. It was. We finally really did it. You maniacs. You blew it all up. Ah, damn you. God damn you all to hell. Yeah, I'm laughing, but it is kind of funny. It's a serious line. He's saying, God damn it, because this is around 68. It's probably right around the Cold War, right? And people hiding underneath their desks because of the Cuban Missile Crisis. They think Russia is going to blow up the world. Cuba is going to take over. Russia and Cuba are going to blow everybody up. And I don't know what they did in Russia if they were doing the same shit, but that's why they made a movie like that, I guess. Like I'm saying, you don't have to make a movie about anti-nuclear weapons and have real people and real truthful analysis. You can make it about human beings. Humanity on this planet is not the prime intelligence. Apes took over. And you write a movie like that, but it's really about nuclear war. And at the end of the movie, when you're a kid and you see that, you don't really make the connection until later on, I guess. You're just like, wow, that's a cool twist. That's an M. Night Shyamalan twist. That's something he would do, right? M. Night Shyamalan, he's the famous director for having twists like that, keeping the audience interested till the end. And then Bruce Willis is really dead, or the town is really taking place in modern times. Or there was one where people would age very quickly. That was his latest one, I think. That was pretty damn good. I don't think people talked about it that much. I don't remember the name of it. It wasn't really a twist. It was just a mystery like that. Like, I don't know, some weird science fiction story. It really was like a science fiction story. The Happening, not so much. I don't think people like that one that much. The Mark Wahlberg one, where the trees were having revenge on human beings. That was kind of dumb. But yeah, Planet of the Apes was the first time I could see how you can end a movie on a high note. It doesn't have to end in the same fashion as Everyone Lives Happily Ever After. You can have this weird twist of an ending that the whole time Charlton Heston and his crew think they're on an alien planet, but then they see the Statue of Liberty and they're like, oh shit, we did it. We blew it all up, you maniacs. Damn you all to hell. It's a classic ending for a reason. I don't know if movies really went that direction too often. I'm sure they did before that. Even Easy Rider had a similar, I talk about that all the time. The ending of Easy Rider was so weird. Um, if you want to live as an outsider in America, you're probably going to end up getting shot in the face by a shotgun by some asshole. What year was it? Was it 68 too? Easy Rider year. That would be kind of cool. 1969. So it's the same time period, man. I think people were really looking at these existential things because how can you speak about nuclear weapons as an individual, even as a president or a ruler of a country? You have the power to destroy millions of people with the push of a button. Like, that's crazy to me. How can you even rationalize that? Because before that, yeah, I guess people would point to like Dresden or concentration camps where you can kill hundreds of thousands of people in a day or even quicker than that. Mass genocide, mass graves, and all that disgusting shit. Dresden, they kind of just set the whole city on fire, or other things during World War II. You could look at stuff like that, but nuking an entire city is different. Dropping a nuclear weapon on Nagasaki, Hiroshima, I think that made people think differently um, about politics globally. And science fiction was the only way for a lot of people to probably talk about that stuff and not go crazy. Is well, or the Doctor Strangelove, you could point to that one as the ultimate satire on nuclear proliferation. I think you should show that movie in schools instead of all the other propaganda. Show that movie in every country in like second grade. Get people to realize, how vulnerable everybody is. It's a weird time, really. Back then, it was more new, but I guess people kind of got used to living with it, with nuclear weapons or even nuclear power. There were movies kind of against that back then. Some Michael Douglas movie, I can't remember. But I would stick with the Planet of the Apes. All right. I've been babbling for too long, so I'll read this story, but it's good I brought up Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes is a really good comparison to how I ended this story. And when I get to the ending, maybe I'll talk more about that, because maybe I'm making that realization right now that Planet of the Apes, the ending of it, specifically the ending, is very relevant to how I ended this story, because it's kind of a happy ending. It's kind of just a nihilistic ending, like, oh shit, we blew everything up, god damn you all, because people probably were feeling like that, powerless and hopeless. There was a movie in the 80s, what would happen if Russia nuked a city or whatever, because I guess people were really more afraid of it. Not that they are now, but I think now people are just so distracted by other shit. If the internet and Twitter was around during the Cuban Missile Crisis, it would have been a different type of experience. The flow of information in 1960s was way different. You had limited channels, you had no internet, no cell phones. Television was fairly new. Kennedy and Nixon was the first debate on television. When crazy events like that happen, yeah, if Twitter was around, if Facebook was around during the Cold War, during all that shit, yeah, it'd be a totally different experience of history. All right, let me get through this story, try to get on my reading voice, because the way I'm talking now, it's almost like I have to talk fake to get through this story. So we're going to begin now. We zoom over Miami, Florida. I set this there because I just think it's a cool, really it's from Grand Theft Auto Vice City, that I was really in love with that game and that story, based in Miami, right? In the 1980s, like Scarface. There's an element of just almost like a Las Vegas appeal. Like I don't know what it is. Miami just seems like a cool place to be in that time period. Besides the party factor, I'm too old for that shit. I'm not trying to move to Vegas or Miami to party. It's more the climate and the atmosphere that's more fun and less puritanical, maybe. So we're going to zoom over Miami, Florida. We're in the 1980s. As a glowing red meteor crashes near a gas station where a muscular man fills up his fancy red convertible. A red glow escapes from the meteor and enters the man's eyes as he finishes gassing up, then drives recklessly away. A nearby police car notices his careless driving and pulls him over. As the two police officers approach, the man steps out of his car, his eyes now glowing deep red. The two officers step back in fear, draw their guns, and then instruct the man to get down on the ground. He doesn't comply, calmly walks towards them, then chokeslams one of the officers. The other is forced to fire his weapon, but the bullets deflect off the glowing red force field that instantly forms. Just as the man is about to go in for the kill, a bright blue glow zips from the sky into the officer's eyes. Now able to match his strength, a chaotic pursuit rips through the city streets, as most pedestrians caught in the violence stand confused as blue and red glowing streaks dart by them. The officers finally gain the advantage, but the red glow inflates the man's body like a balloon until his insides explode all over the scene. Seconds later, the blue glow exits the officers' eyes as they stand in shock, wondering where they are, covered in the man's flesh and guts. The red glow then glides miles away in a flash and enters into a woman's eyes as she window shops outside a fancy boutique. So that was basically the scene that I just read is the only scene I got to when I started writing the screenplay. So at least I had a beginning to the story. The first scene of like a Marvel movie or a comic book movie, it should be an action scene, I think. You want to introduce the world to the audience right away. So in this first scene, which would take maybe 5 minutes, you introduce people to Miami in the 1980s based on the aesthetic and how people were dressing in the 80s. And then you have this crazy guy with red eyes, this red glow around him. He seems to be an indestructible force. These two police officers are about to become victims of this guy. But then this mysterious blue glow enters their eyes and they're able to fight him off. And then there's a bit of a comic approach to this, that the officers are kind of back to their own selves at this point, and they're standing there in shock, covered in this man's flesh and guts, wondering how they got there. So there's a bit of a comic approach to that. I'm not trying to make this a gory type of movie that kids couldn't go to. I don't know what Planet of the Apes was rated. Maybe it was PG-13 or R, but I don't even think those ratings were around back then. I don't know how it worked back then. But it was definitely considered an adult movie. But I don't think it was rated PG-13 or R. I don't think people rated stuff like that until later on in the 80s. Maybe it was because of the parental advisory, that whole PMRC thing. I don't know. So we're setting up this story very, very quickly that it's going to be a fun action type of experience. That's why I wanted to open the screenplay with a similar type of a scene like that. All of a sudden, you need to have CGI. This man's face will explode because it's showing that these Martian spirits, the Martian consciousness, which is the red and the blue glowing streaks, can enter any person and do whatever they want with that person. So I think that's a good way to intro this story. But now we're going to meet Eric. Eric is one of the main characters. He's happy-go-lucky, probably in his early 30s, and he's at his local diner counter, drinking his coffee, staring towards Debbie. Debbie is the waitress he's been trying to win over. And I picture Aubrey Plaza. Feel free to kind of ignore that and picture whoever you want. But when I was writing this, I was kind of picturing her type of attitude. So Debbie walks by him and pays him no mind as he tries to start up a conversation. And he leaves kind of embarrassed, leaves her a tip and some purple flowers. Then he exits. So he's probably been going to this diner every day just to try to get noticed by this woman. And he's leaving her purple flowers every time he leaves a tip for her. Now he's on his bicycle and he's going to a local park to play chess with Lou, who's a disabled, elderly, obese man. And Lou beats him every time they match wits. So Eric loses the game, pays Lou a penny, shakes his hand, and rides away on his bicycle. So you could, of course, I'm writing this as quickly as possible as a short narrative of what this story is. If this was a screenplay, I would have to make this maybe a 3 to 4 page scene to establish Lou's character and Eric's relationship with this man, because this becomes a more vital, interesting part of the story by the end. I never outlined this as a screenplay yet. It's going to happen once I get there. Once I'm able to do this, then I could add more dialogue. Well, there's no dialogue, so I'd have to come up with dialogue for all these scenes. So now Eric is almost late for work. He's racing through a back alley on his bicycle just as a glowing purple meteor crashes into the street in front of him, blinding his eyes with powerful rays and knocking him off his bicycle. Eric regains his vision after a few seconds, and then he checks out the mysterious glowing meteor, now deep in a crater. Then he carries his mangled bicycle away from the scene. When he gets to work, he's late for the lunch rush as a waiter, and his boss immediately fires him. After pleading for one last chance, he's dragged out the back door by 2 of the chefs. Eric walks away frustrated, with the mysterious purple glow now glimmering within his eyes, with blue and red streaks of light flashing through the clouds above him and disappearing just as quickly. So whatever that meteor was, it had a purple glow, and now it's whatever this consciousness is inside of Eric, whether he's aware of it or not. Eric carries his bicycle back to the diner, where he eats lunch at the front counter as Debbie approaches with the check. She notices the new purple glow in his eyes and becomes very interested in him, to his delightful surprise. He finishes his sandwich, leaves her some more purple flowers, then strolls away with his bicycle. Later that night, so I'm going very quickly. I never separated this in first act, second act, third act. I'm just trying to get the plot out, almost like a pitch of this story. I felt like I had to add this in there because this album is like an accompaniment to a cinematic experience or a graphic novel. Operation Mindcrime could have done that. It could have been made into a movie. It could still be. It's a great idea for a production company to take Operation Mindcrime and reimagine it as a movie, using the music, using the same character, plot line. It would be kind of interesting. All right. Later that night, Debbie sneaks through Eric's bedroom window, wakes him up as he jumps back in fright and covers his body with the sheets. Before he can gather his bearings, she hypnotizes him with the blue glow from her eyes and transports him into space in a protective blue bubble. Debbie zooms through the solar system with the shocked Eric until they reach Mars, where she shows him the history of the planet by projecting blue lights onto the surface, transforming it into a gigantic screen. I think that would look pretty cool. There's an element of Watchmen in this too. There's a scene in Watchmen, right, where don't they have love? They make love in space or something. I don't remember. Maybe it's something I'm misremembering. Maybe they just make love in the spaceship or something. But I think that would be kind of cool. That's how they first meet. Their first date is watching the history of Mars, like a drive-in movie theater almost, from space right there on Mars. So they watch the images of Mars from millions of years ago, as it was once a beautiful blue planet, very similar to Earth, with green fields, blue oceans, and fresh air to breathe. One night, a red glowing meteor crashes onto the planet and infects a young Martian boy, turning his eyes into a red glow. The boy unknowingly spreads the red haze to his family, and after just a few days, the majority of the Martian population has glowing red eyes. The entire planet begins to change from blue to red as riots rage and resources quickly become scarce. A few Martians decide to transport their consciousness to Earth to flee the chaos and starvation, and they settle on a remote island village within the Bermuda Triangle, where they utilize the villagers as vessels, living inside their bodies until they can once again return to their home planet. So she's everything I talked about. She's showing Eric the history of Mars. It used to be like Earth. It had blue oceans and these lush green fields just like Earth does, but it got fucked up and it got infected with this virus, causing people to hate each other and riots to break out. And maybe there is some political stuff at this point, the political divide in America or any country, where it becomes to the point of like a civil war. It becomes to that level almost. Other countries already have been through it. So has America. America had a civil war. But I feel like the political climate is leading towards that direction because everything's about dividing people up by identity politics or other bullshit. It's a problem not just in America. I'm sure it's similar in the UK and other places. So I always say I stay away from politics, but of course there's going to be bits and pieces of it because I have to write about something. All right, so Eric learns about the history of Mars through this flashback type of a movie. Now they're back to the present, and world famous American pop singer Liberty is preparing to perform her Super Bowl halftime show in Miami, which is shaping up to be the most watched event of all time. As she walks towards the stage, she gets a video call from her mother, the same woman we saw before in front of the window who got infected with the red-eye virus. So the virus is now spread to Liberty through the phone screen, and now that she's infected, she takes the stage and performs her song for the hundreds of millions of people watching around the world. See, if you don't you can't really tell because you're not watching this movie. You're infecting people through their eyeballs. The red haze is coming out through people's eyes, infecting people. That's how the virus is spread. And you could do it over a screen. So if you watch a person on television, you can get infected yourself just by looking at these people's eyes. I have a problem with eye contact. I don't like looking at people's eyes for different reasons, I guess, but maybe that was in my head back then when I wrote this. I don't think I'm autistic. I think that might be a form of autism where you don't like looking people in the eye. But in this science fiction world, it's because they're spreading viruses through that. So Eric and Debbie are now back from space, and they're watching the Super Bowl performance in a diner with other patrons and workers. Debbie immediately notices something is strange as she stares at Liberty's red eyes on the screen. A few moments later, everyone in the diner is infected with the red eyes as they march outside like zombies, except for Eric, who is immune due to the purple glow. The red-eye virus spreads like wildfire throughout the city and world, as Debbie now transports Eric to the countryside to regroup, having already experienced the mass destruction that is soon to follow. Liberty, now the ruler of the red-eye invasion, instructs her zombie-like workers to build a giant tower in the ocean. So she's still in Miami, but now she's going to be the leader of this red-eye zombie army. And she's instructing them to build this giant tower in the ocean so it could transmit a new inaudible ghost frequency. The construction process is merciless, and many workers die from the harsh conditions as nobody rests until the job is complete. Now we're back in the country where Debbie and Eric kind of ran to escape the virus. Yeah, I did mention that. Yeah, at the end of that, after the Super Bowl performance, Debbie and Eric run to the countryside to kind of get a plan together. Because Debbie's the only one that would know what's happening, because it happened to Mars and now it's about to happen to Earth. And so they're back in the country now, and there are also dozens of other blue-eyed Martian vessels reuniting with Debbie after being scattered throughout the world for centuries, blending in with human society as the Martian consciousness passes from one host to the next. The Martian elders meet Eric and notice his purple eyes, and they bow down to him as he begins to realize whatever is inside of him must be even more ancient than them. As they rest that night, a red-eye army attacks, just as the tower turns on and begins transmitting the ghost frequency worldwide. The waves weaken all the blue-eye vessels, leaving them all trapped inside their mortal human host, unable to escape to safety. I'm not sure how I want to really talk about the physics of this. I was going for these Martian consciousness. They can invade a human being, and when that person dies, they can go somewhere else. But with this new frequency, it's kind of trapping them in the bodies so they can't move on, and they're pretty much dead at that point. Or they begin to wither away within their human host. They can't escape and go into somebody else like they did before, if that makes sense. Eric now protects Debbie from this frequency by shielding her with a purple force field, and they flee into outer space as everything below them burns in a raging inferno. So now Earth is kind of turning into Mars, slowly and slowly. Eric now carries the weakened Debbie in his arms as they float through space within the purple force field. She then guides the bubble towards an oasis far beyond the known universe, where stars are birthed from light streaks of every imaginable color. She heals herself in the bright rays, then watches her fallen blue-eye friends come back to life as light energy, as they spread out randomly throughout the cosmos. Once fully recovered, she and Eric embrace as millions of new colorful stars shoot out in all directions. That's more what I was going for with Watchmen. There's a scene in Watchmen that I can't remember. They either make love in space or in the spaceship. I don't remember, man. But it's something, because that is an influence on this story as well. The only graphic novel I've ever read is Watchmen. I don't think I've ever really even know of any other ones. I never got into it as a kid. Now Debbie and Eric are traveling back to Earth, and as they get closer to the planet, they notice that the once pale blue dot has now become a light shade of red as the infection deepens within the planet's core. They dash to the island village in the Bermuda Triangle, where the first Martians employed the villagers as vessels. That makes sense. If Martians were fleeing their planet, they would want to be kind of hidden somewhere. So instead of going to a city, they go to some tribal village. Maybe that's what happened in the past with like Machu Picchu and all the weird mysteries of that shit. Machu Picchu, it's all this crazy. Well, a lot of South America, and people point to Egypt as well, of course. So that's kind of where I got the idea for that. If these Martian spirits had to find a place to seek refuge on a different planet, they go to Earth, and they can't just, well, they could, because they are doing it now, but most likely they just stay in a peaceful existence hidden from everyone, the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe I stole that a little from Black Panther because they kind of have like a hidden refuge that they live on out in the middle of the ocean, I think. So it's similar to that. This once small village has now become a burgeoning nation for the former Martian refugees who have been too fearful to expose themselves to the rest of humanity up until now. Debbie and Eric are cordially welcomed by the Martian descendants who have remained hidden all these years within the triangle's magnetic field and optical illusion. That night, the villagers hold a burial ceremony for many of their fallen, as the ghost frequency has begun to weaken all of their bodies. As the corpses are burnt on the beach, their blue spirits are released towards space, lighting up the water with a magnificent glow. Of course, the Bermuda Triangle has been used in so many things, but if it's got that mysterious folklore to it, why not use it, man? It's perfect for science fiction. It's been used a million times, but, whatever. It's not a necessary element of the plot, but I don't think it was used anything else. Like, I don't know if I stole that from anything. I don't think I did. Maybe that was like Wonder Woman too, right? Like the Amazon tribe, the new Wonder Woman movie. They kind of lived hidden on a planet, right? I don't know if that was the Bermuda Triangle. If I did steal it from that, it was not a conscious thing. But I guess I should look that up. I kind of remember watching that movie. There was I kind of remember watching that movie, Wonder Woman, one of the newer ones, if that was the 1984 one or whatever it was called. I'm just going to search that and see if anything comes up. Wonder Woman, Bermuda Triangle. I don't know if anything will come up. If not, then I guess I didn't steal it from that. Or if maybe it's from Black Panther. But, to be honest, it's kind of like, all right, I didn't steal it from the movie. The first thing that came up on Google, the Bermuda Triangle Crisis is the 4th episode of season 2 of the 1970s Wonder Woman television series, which first aired on October 7th, 1977. Diana Prince must blah, 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 blah. Must balance her loyalty to the U.S. government with the safety of her Amazon homeland when a planned nuclear testing site threatens to expose Paradise Island. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But yeah, I shouldn't really think about this much. Yeah, in the DC universe, the Bermuda Triangle hides the Paradise Island. So I guess that was in my brain at some point. But if that really pisses me off that much, I could change that later. It just made sense in the moment. So I guess that's a common thing that science fiction writers go towards. I don't know if Black Panther did that, but it could be. Whatever. The next morning from this island, whether it's in the Bermuda Triangle or not, the next morning, Debbie, Eric, and an army of tribal Martian warriors attacked the giant tower in the ocean to end the transmission and ensure the survival of the planet. An intense battle soon rages between the blue glow and the red glow, and many perish on both sides. In a heroic act of desperation, the leader of the tribal warriors sacrifices himself by reversing the ghost waves to destroy the tower, causing the red glow to weaken worldwide as the sky turns back to a bluer shade. With victory achieved, Debbie and Eric travel back to Miami to destroy Liberty and end the Red Eye invasion once and for all. Again, this could be like a 20-minute scene here when they go back to this village and they kind of see that even these tribal warriors that have lived with the Martian consciousness and reproduced with it throughout the generations, it's probably some kind of a the reason I want it to be hidden, because it's probably a city. The Martians probably helped these people create these massive towers and shit. Just like people think about ancient aliens and the pyramids, and that the people must have been aided by some alien intelligence. Even in 2001 with the monolith, right? The monoliths, is that how you say that? The monoliths. Whatever it is. Evolution was helped by stuff like that. That human beings couldn't have done this by themselves. And I'm not a big ancient alien guy, but it's in my head. I'm aware of it. I do like the Graham Hancock ancient civilization stuff. I've talked about that before with other stories I've written. All right, so now Debbie and Eric are traveling back to Miami to destroy Liberty. We now move to that, what we think will be the ending battle, where Debbie and Liberty are rumbling through the streets of Miami as blue and red streaks of light reflect off the tall skyscrapers. Expecting a long, hard fight, Debbie is shocked when she defeats Liberty in a matter of seconds after shooting a blue beam into her eyes. Freed from the red eye infection, Liberty regains her human identity and awakes in a state of confusion. The red haze then begins to fade even more as millions around the world regain control over their minds. So that would be filmed or told in the screenplay like it's the final boss battle in a action movie or in a science fiction film when they're battling, what was his name, Kronos or some shit, over the rings, like that final battle. That's what it would look like, but the audience would be surprised because it would be like a minute scene fight where Debbie just is able to put down Liberty very easily. And they think everything is safe at that point. With the world seemingly back to normal, Debbie and Eric return to the diner and share a cup of coffee, both exhausted after the harrowing past few days. Still uneasy about Liberty's unusually quick defeat, she walks outside and follows a glowing red streak of light towards the park, where Lou sits alone playing a game of chess against himself, an ominous red glow hovering around him. We now view a flashback from after the Super Bowl as the original red consciousness transfers from Liberty's mother into Lou's body while he sits alone in the park, unaware of the ancient chaotic force claiming him as a vessel. Liberty and her army were merely pawns manipulated as diversions to ensure the red glow could spread throughout the world undisturbed through globally connected underground mycelium networks. So that's the flashback that we didn't see before. That first scene after the officers fight that dude, the red consciousness goes to Liberty's mother. Then she makes the phone call to infect her daughter before the Super Bowl. Then after that scene, we don't see it. Her consciousness flows away and ends up in Lou's body. That's why this isn't a detailed look at this story. Lou's a pretty major character here. He would probably be kind of like Eric's trusty, wise old man giving him advice. You can make different scenes throughout this movie. Maybe there's a little bit more of a conflict before Debbie and Eric team up together. And yeah, I would have to rework a lot of things when I'm thinking as a screenwriter. and I have to get 100 pages done, 110 pages, whatever it is, I would have to really reinvent the story a little bit at least. This is just a general scope of what the plot is. You could call it a pitch. Yeah, everything I've been doing is a pitch. Every screenplay that I've read of my 15, I was looking at it like I was pitching it to someone. A pitch isn't going to take an hour or 6 hours, I guess. But to get the general flavor of what this movie would be, it would be something like this. All right, we're back to the present, and we're towards the end of this story. There's only like a page left. We're back to the present, and now we're really going to have the final battle as Lou greets Debbie with a wry grin. So, did I mention that part? Yeah. Debbie was the one that was like, something's wrong here, and then she finds Lou in the park, and Lou is now grinning towards Debbie like it was all just a game of chess, while the real destructive chaos is now set in motion. So you would assume that the red evil consciousness would spread through humans, but it's not. It spread through the mycelium networks of mushrooms to destroy the planet from the inside. That's where I wanted to make this story because I was interested in that stuff. Mycelium networks and how they communicate with the forest. It's not fresh in my head, but it's pretty cool if you listen to Paul Stamets and people like that. Terrence McKenna and other mushroom people. It is interesting stuff. I'm not a psychonaut. I've talked about that before. I'm interested in doing psychedelics in my life at some point. Peyote is the one that kind of calls my name. Maybe that's why I want to move to New Mexico and sort of get involved in that community somehow. The ground is quaking. Back to the story now. The ground is quaking beneath Lou, and a much more powerful red glow escapes from the Earth's core to light up the sky in a bloody haze. The entire planet is now turning deep red like a second Mars, as cities around the world disappear into gigantic, apocalyptic sinkholes. Oceans turn red, and trees combust into raging fires, as almost all of humanity disintegrates in an instant. The tribal Martian descendants try to chant the fires away from their island home, as they hold hands to strengthen their shared consciousness. But even they cannot contain the chaos. Strengthen? Couldn't say that word. Debbie now experiences the fight she had expected as she and Lou clash through Miami's skyline. The fierce combat soon moves over the ocean, where Eric joins the fray and distracts Lou with purple beams of light from his eyes. Debbie uses this moment to merge her blue energy with Lou's red energy, launching their colorful spirits into space as a massive explosion of purple mist shoots towards Mars, where the once red planet morphs to beautiful shades of violet and purple. So that's the final. I think that would be a cool final battle. You have this obese man in Lou, but now he's a fucking super villain because this Martian consciousness invaded his body, but he's still in his body like as an old obese man with a bad leg or whatever. He was missing a leg maybe. I don't know what his character would really look like. Because usually you have these epic battles between comic book heroes and the Incredible Hulk and other people, Wolverine and Hammerhead, was that his name? Or I forget the name of the guy. There's so many good characters that are like crazy muscular, but I've never seen one between like some fat old guy fighting this waitress. Like that would be a cool ending battle that would separate it from other movies like that. I don't know who I see playing these, besides Aubrey Plaza as the waitress. I don't know who I see playing the other roles. Eric or as Lou. the older guy. I don't know who I would see playing that role. Uh, yeah, I was gonna say get Danny DeVito to do it. That would be kind of funny. Back on the beach. All right, we're at the end now. Where we left off, the red planet is now becoming a purple planet because the red consciousness was defeated, and maybe Mars will start to heal from the red planet where nothing can grow, and it will become able to be lived on at some point in the future. So it becomes like a purple planet. Back on the beach on Earth, Eric is desperately trying to wake Debbie up while the majestic purple haze shines all over them. He places purple flowers in her hair, stares deeply into her lifeless eyes, and unknowingly revives her with his purple glow. So it's almost like the Matrix again when Neo saves Trinity by pumping her heart back. Maybe that was in my head a little because I always mention the Matrix when I talk about science fiction. So Debbie awakes as her former human self, trying to remember who and where she is, like she just woke up from a lifelong coma. Eric appears as dazed as her, while they stare towards the deep purple haze now covering the entire skyline of Earth, as Earth is no longer recognizable. And that's the end of this short story. That's where the connection to, it's not really a twist of an ending. I just like how the Planet of the Apes ended. It kind of leaves it on a, even though I said it's kind of a happy ending, they made it back to home, I guess. But now their home is completely unrecognizable. Maybe that's why I compared this to Planet of the Apes. That Earth is now becoming like a Mars with a deep red haze, and Mars is becoming a purple planet. And it's also enveloping all of Earth. So where does it go from here? Yeah, I misspoke. It's not red. Earth defeated Debbie was able to defeat the red consciousness, and now Earth is turning into a purple planet. And that's kind of where I leave this story. Is there a possible sequel? Yeah, of course, if I can come up with a story for it. I don't know where I would go with it. Debbie is now back to her human self. I don't know when the Martian consciousness really invaded her body. It might have been when she was a kid. Maybe some of these agents, if you want to look at it like the Matrix, some of these agents that in the Matrix, they could go from person to person and take over a person's body. It's a similar type of an experience with this, but it's not a computer simulation. It's just an alien. It's more science fiction, I think, than the Matrix, because the Matrix to me, it's science fiction, but it's more about the fear of technology and the new industrial revolution, which is the digital age. I think the Matrix was kind of a warning about that in the 90s, and it's still reverberating 30 years later, whatever it is. I wasn't a fan of some of the sequels, and the latest one was terrible. The Matrix, the last Matrix that was made was almost unwatchable. I thought it was one of the worst movies I ever saw. I got to be honest about it. It was a struggle to get through. I thought it was just the story was just so bad, in my opinion. Sure, it's always going to be good with the acting and the visuals and the computer effects. It's still cool, but it was a very hard movie to get through. The last one was really bad. I kind of feel like if it was up to me, I would have just made the first Matrix and never even made one sequel. I think it kind of had that. I'm sure it made money because I went to see all the sequels, part 2 and part 3. I was so excited to see those because I was just a big fan of that story. But going back now, looking at it, even though I have a crazy amount of nostalgia for the second one and third one. I think the first one is just a perfect movie. I'd be happier just to have that one stand alone without any sequels to it. But I get it. You want to make money off of a franchise like that. So could this have a sequel? Yeah. Now Earth is this purple planet. All the cities have been destroyed. Where do we go from here? I guess that's where the story would continue. Or you go as a prequel and you show Mars before all that shit. You can kind of do it like that, like Game of Thrones. That's what they're kind of doing, right? Going back in time. But I don't know yet. I'm not thinking about that. Do I have any ideas for a sequel? Not really. But at the end of the movie, I also pictured Purple Haze playing during the credits. And I wrote in my book that it would be performed by the Joy Formidable. Because I think it would be cool to have a shoegaze version, if it doesn't exist already, of Purple Haze. Make a shoegaze version that would sound really cool. And I think the Joy Formidable could do it, like really in a unique type of way with a different tempo and everything. So, yeah, this is part sci-fi. This is part love story. This is part science. Or I said that it's part political drama. It's part satire in a way because I'm almost making fun of Marvel movies where I don't want to take it so seriously. Watchmen worked for me because it's different than other shit. I even like the HBO series. I thought it was really good. I have to watch it again at some point. But just the graphic novel Watchmen, it's a book I'll return to again and again because it's dealing with similar issues that is still in the world today. The Cold War and nuclear proliferation, where when I was having the talk with myself yesterday, I kept saying that the issue is not really how do you stop people from getting weapons, because it's only going to get easier, right? The next generation and the generation after that are fucked with how technology expands. It might not even be nuclear weapons. It's going to be something else that anyone can make. It'll be some ray or some laser shit, some atmospheric weapon that can just evaporate people. I don't fucking know, man. But if we were able to create nuclear weapons to destroy millions of people like that, yeah, there's probably something worse on the horizon. Because everything, whether bad or good, gets easier to do with technology and whatever. So I don't think the question is who gets to have nukes, who doesn't get to have nukes. I think the conversation should be, why are we having this conversation at all? Why does anyone have nukes? Why do we want to have these things that could exterminate the entire world? It's a form of protection, right? That's the argument. What's the mutual assured destruction? We have submarines everywhere, just like everyone else, I guess. Certain countries, at least. If somebody nuked someone else, then it would automatically get nuked. I have that same philosophy in life. If somebody put something bad on me, then it would go back to them and their family. It's the same thing, because who would want to hurt themselves? Right? It's a good philosophy. If somebody tries to fuck me up with whatever, I feel like it's more financial at this point because I've been trying to get a job for like a while now, and not even like a professional job. I'm just trying to be barista at Starbucks so I can survive moving to the West Coast. Um, and that's been a struggle. I've applied to maybe over 100 places, and it's been an absolute mystery why I can't get a job. But I think, even though I don't like the idea of mutual assured destruction, if somebody's going to nuke us, then we're going to nuke them, and then everyone just gets destroyed like Planet of the Apes. damn you all to hell, whatever the hell the quote is, I forget it now. But we did it. We finally did it because it's inevitable, right? How many nuclear weapons are there in the world? Like, it seems like an inevitability that someone's going to fuck up and it's going to ruin it for everybody else. So the conversation is, how do you get to the point where you can have these conversations not about who gets to have these weapons and who doesn't get to have these weapons. It's about, why does anyone need to have these weapons? Why are we so intent on not trusting each other that we're going to constantly be in warfare and want to kill each other? I don't think people have that conversation enough. All you hear on the news is why you have to go to war, the cause or the reasons that the government tries to sell you like a salesman. But you don't get the other conversation of why is this a part of human existence to begin with? Because I don't know if the next generation will be better off or not. They could be. Maybe the younger people will get tired of this shit and design something new, away from religious feuds and rivalries, and they'll have that do no harm philosophy. But again, there's too many people in the world. That's why people kind of don't see that as a contingency. There's too many damn people, and everyone's separated by country, by religion, by all that other shit. And even on my level as an individual, identity politics and all that shit, I feel like that has played a big role in causing mental breakdowns. Identity politics to me is a fraud. I don't think people do it in the quest for equality. I really don't. I think identity politics is just to try to group people together in this weird groupthink, and it's a way to control people, a way to control language, a way to control people's political conversations, political thoughts on anything. I don't like that being boxed in, which is why I don't become a member of any religion. I said I don't believe in God, nor do I don't, I'm 50-50, whatever that is, agnostic or whatever it's called. It's a 50-50 shot. There might be a God, there might not be a God. Nobody can really get better odds than that. Even if you have one of those near-death experiences, don't go towards the light. Like whatever that story always is. When people have near-death experiences and they come back and say, oh, I saw angels, it was beautiful. I don't believe any of that stuff. I don't believe in ghosts and spirits. All that witchcraft shit, it's interesting, and I write stories about it. I've written a lot of stories about demonic stuff and doppelganger demons. Even this story has some of that in there, but more of an alien presence. You could have written this story. I mean, I could have written this story, or somebody else could make a different version of this story without science fiction. You just turn it around. The evil consciousness is some demonic force perverting people's minds, and whatever the good force is kind of the angelic guiding light. You can make this anything because it's just a classic tale of chaos versus what's the opposite of chaos? I don't want to say order, because it's weird when you think about stuff like that. There's always a certain degree of chaos, but I'm talking about the type of chaos that destroys an entire planet. That's a different type of an animal. I think I'm a bit self-destructive as a person individually, or I have been in my past when I was gambling and shit. But I don't think it's like that. To that point, I wasn't trying to harm myself or harm other people. There's a form of chaos in this story that's eager to destroy things just for the sake of destroying things. That's the type of shit I'm talking about. I don't know how to term that, nihilism, Because sometimes I think nihilists are just people pretty much the same as Stoicism, but maybe they're a little bit more anarchist. Maybe that's the word. But then again, these are just terms. What's the difference between anarchy and libertarianism? They both want no government regulation for the most part. What's the difference? I guess just how to get there, how to organize society from that point. Every man, woman, and child for themselves. Wild West shit. Was the Wild West libertarian? Was it anarchy? Was it a mixture of both? So there's a lot of elements like that in this story. Science fiction is the preferred way, I think, to deal with politics, because you could appeal to anybody. You're not taking sides. You're not picking winners and losers. You're just talking about the human experience, the human condition, that you're raised in a tribe. And a lot of times, sad to say, you're raised to hate somebody else if you're brought up like that. You're raised to think you're superior to other people. That still goes on. That's why I don't like identity politics, because I listened to a Greg Graffin from Bad Religion. He had a book a while back called like the Punk Paradox or something. And he's talking about identity politics back then. He doesn't like it because it boxes people in while they're still trying to grow and form a different worldview. Hopefully a more inviting one, more peaceful one. When you start boxing people in, and people sometimes don't even get the option, they just get manipulated, and they get more of a nefarious look. It's not just manipulation, it's more nefarious than that. Whatever the word after that, it's more narcissistic, I think. I don't like identity politics because I feel like it blinds people. Where you put yourself in a box, this is my team, this is what I am, and you have to fit that mold now. You said I'm this, now that's what I'm going to be for the rest of my life. You pick an identity when you're 5 years old and go with it, and you're never going to have an open mind enough as another person who doesn't want to do that. Like, you could be a part of a religion or another tribal group like that. I don't know what else to say besides religion, really. Although atheism is a form of tribalism. I don't know how to better describe it than a religion, though, because religion is the easiest way to manipulate people into wanting to die for a cause. You get enough fundamentalist, crazy people, no, we're doing this for God, we're doing this for whatever fucking reason. It's the easiest way to manipulate vulnerable people. Why do cults exist? How are cults able to convince people that this is the preferred way that God wants? Whatever cult you want to point towards, the Waco, Texas one, the Jim Jones one, Heaven's Gate, which was more about aliens, I think. But it's all fucked up. I don't know enough about any of those things, but what makes a religion? What makes a cult? Why are they different? How are they similar in terms of groupthink and being fearful or being mistrustful of the other? Those are all just inevitable when you form society like that. You pick a team and you go with it. It doesn't mean you might not agree. You might not agree with everything that's said and done, but you're so entrenched in this tribal mentality that you don't want to think about opening up your mind to another point of view. That's why I don't like identity politics. I think it's the wrong direction. I think it's been abused by people. I think it's been misused, same thing, I guess, and misdefined by people. I don't think the people that ascribe to that political ideology are bad people for the most part. But I don't think it's the right way to try to make a fairer society. I really don't. I think it gets abused and corrupted just like anything else. Even in terms of economic theory, capitalism, communism, socialism, they're all fucked up. They all have problems. None of them are perfect. Why do you want to be? I'm a staunch capitalist. I'm a communist and nothing else. Like, why would you want to box yourself in like that? You're just afraid that you won't be able to survive as an individual, right? That's what the reason is. You're afraid if you're not with a tribe, you'll be a lone wolf and you're going to die on the street starving to death. Like, I guess that's what people fear. But how do you get past that as an evolution of human brains where they don't think like that anymore? If you have to force people to accept your way of life through the fear of starvation, and I've said this before, then your worldview is totally invalid. Your philosophy is fucked up. You spread your whatever philosophy through the fear of being unable to buy food or get a job or anything else. It's definitely fucked up to think like that. That's a big problem. I don't know if America has dealt with that so much. Other countries have. This month I was thinking about, well, because I had this talk with myself last night, and I had the idea to read a bunch of Ayn Rand and try to learn more about the relativism and all that shit. As usually when I think of Ayn Rand, I just think it's a bad philosophy. I think it's just a type of capitalism that's like the Gordon Gekko. You crush your competition. I want to at least be fair to it and read her because I know she hated communism. She was a big proponent for individualism, I think. I don't know what relativism really means. It's a form of that. If you do things that you want to accomplish in life, then maybe it will get you closer to whatever you term God. I don't know if she believed in God, but I think it's a topic I was thinking about going down in one of my essays, and I might do that this month if I feel like it, or next month if I don't get to it, because it's kind of a heavy topic to go through shit like that. Ayn Rand is somebody I always like. I would cringe when thinking of her name, like, because it's associated with this brand of capitalism that's very heartless. And I'll at least give it a fair shot and try to read her books. I think the movies that were made, like The Fountainhead, were terrible. Maybe there was a movie made, I don't know. But I don't know, man. I want to give everything a fair shake, or as much as I can at least. Maybe I'm more on the left side of things, but because I want to be open-minded, I feel like conservatism is more closed-minded than the left. The left has plenty of problems, but I feel like people who are traditionalists, conservatives, they don't open up their minds because they just want to stay to the old ways because that's what got them to survive, and their parents survived like that. Even if they don't agree with everything, they're going to stick to their guns because it puts food on their plate. And you could say the same thing about the other side. It's not different. I think it's that method of fear, it invalidates your philosophy. You're going to say, oh, you want to go outside the box and think for yourself as an individual? Well, you're not going to eat. You're not going to be able to make an income because it's happening to me. I can't get a job right now. I'm trying to move to the West Coast and start really going full board on this art thing. And to do that, I need to get a job first. I'm not going to move to the West without a job. Even like somewhere like Las Vegas, where I probably could find a job. because there's plenty of opportunity, right? There should be. You move to Las Vegas, it seems like there's plenty of places that need workers. But my experience is if you're not working for yourself, how stable can any of your job really be? Any job you get is going to be reliant on other people's word. I've already been through it, so it's very difficult for me to do something like this and trust people because there's so much bullshit involved in it. But I'm going to do it anyway because I'm 44 and I don't have any other option. I don't know anybody. I don't have a network of peers to help me decide where should I go to make a project like this happen. But the only thing I know for sure is that it's not going to happen in New Jersey. It's not going to happen on the East Coast because if it would have, it would have happened already. When I went homeless a year ago, my whole thing was I'm going to make money off of this project. And that's what I convinced myself. I wasn't even trying to get a job back then because this was the only thing I was going to do for the rest of my life. And I still feel the same way, but now I realize I need to have something behind it so I don't starve to death. Like, that's the mentality I'm in now. I need to make a plan for the next 20 years of my life. And it begins with getting a job, moving to the West Coast, and starting it the best I can. Won't be easy to begin with, but, right now I'm not doing anything. So at least I'll be doing something to get me to that point. And yeah, I'm going on a tangent here, but these are all the thoughts in my head. Why did I decide to read this story today? I think it's because last night I'm having a conversation with myself before I went to bed, talking about time travel. What if Einstein really invented time travel? He would keep it secret. What if Jewish people were the only people with that technology and they used that, they went back, or they maybe you can't go back in time. I don't know. You go forward in time and you see what we're going to do to fuck each other up. And then you come back to this day and age and you're like, all right, we got to do this. We got to do this to make sure Iran doesn't get a weapon. And that's their meaning behind that. Because who knows what the fucking truth is. When I mention that because people always point to The Simpsons, and I think that's basically more of a Jewish philosophy, Judaism in The Simpsons. And they always say The Simpsons predicts the future. What if one group, one tribe, in this example, it's Jewish people, what if they were able to invent time travel? They didn't tell anyone about it. They have a secret underground. Maybe it's not even a machine. Like maybe you do travel your consciousness. You leave your body behind and you can reach the speed of light or whatever the fuck quantum shit you want to put in there to reach time travel. It doesn't have to be a machine. Our bodies, or maybe our bodies, I was going to say our bodies are a machine, but maybe we're trapped by our bodies. We can't experience time in the past, present, and future like an arrival because our bodies are trapping us. Our bodies are keeping us from knowing the truth of existence. It's more of a cage. The Arcade Fire song, My Body is a Cage. Or there was an album when I was a teenager, The Receiving End of Sirens, Between the Heart and the Synapse. And the first song is, This is the Last Night of My Body. Prison Break, I think it's called. All right, I'm over 2 hours. So I'm going to end this soon. I'm going to get into the songs that I wrote for this to close this talk. And before I do that, I'm going to look up the lyrics to those songs I just mentioned. The Receiving End of Sirens. It's kind of emo. It's kind of like Coheed and Cambria. And they were a pretty vital band for me, maybe early on in 2000s. I remember selling life insurance at that point, whatever year that was. After college, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to join the Peace Corps for a while, and then I was like just getting drunk on the weekends again. I was kind of just drifting, and so I got this life insurance job, and that's when I would drive around and go to people's homes to try to sell them life insurance. And during that time, this was the only album I listened to. I had a crappy flip phone, and I tried to like record the song from my car speakers to be my ringtone. It was really stupid back then. It's called Planning a Prison Break by the receiving end of sirens. Warden's calling for a lockdown, baby. He'll call on interim iniquities. This is the last night of my body. Assist in the escape. Warden's calling on a jailbreak, baby. He'll fly like only a jailbird could. He'll fly only like only a jailbird could. Like a felon, he fell into scandal, scams, and master plans to circumvent all circumstances. He thought to his throat, we can swallow this key and leave when we please. Let's hope this let's hope this stomach disagrees. Warden's calling for a lockdown, baby. He'll call on interim iniquities. This is the last night of my body. Assist in the escape. Make a clean getaway, he said, with his hands outstretched to nurse her neck. She lured him in with a masochistic kiss and wished he could be anywhere but here. Warden's calling for a lockdown, baby. He'll call on interim iniquities. This is the last night of my body. Assist in the escape. We could be anywhere but here. We could be anywhere but here. There's a little bit more, but that's a general sense of that song. If you never heard of them, go check that out. I think they only had 2 albums, but one of the members was the creator of the Deer Hunter, which is more progressive rock, I guess. That's what it would be termed as. Kind of prog rock, but it's still very interesting. You know, of course, I'm not the biggest prog rock guy, but when I hear something I like, I just like it. And I would recommend that too. Yeah, if you never heard, and that's from maybe 20 years ago. The Receiving End of Sirens, which is a cool name for a band. It had to be around 2008, maybe before that. I think I'm afraid to date myself. Not really, but that makes me feel really old. It makes me feel really old because I don't know. It came out like 2005, I think. So yeah, more than 20 years ago, man. That's what we were rocking to. It was like every time we would go and have fun, it would be that album and No Effects to Decline. Those were the 2 albums that would usually go on the stereo late at night. The other song I mentioned was Arcade Fire, My Body is a Cage, because maybe that's what time travel is. We watch all these movies where time travel seems to be this scientific thing with machinery. Even 12 Monkeys, which I love that movie. That's another early science fiction movie that blew my mind as a kid. And of course, that's a part of this story. You go back to the story of 12 Monkeys, if anyone saw that recently, and it's about a plague. Bruce Willis is in the future. Those crazy scientist people are sending him back in time to find out how the plague started. And then Brad Pitt's really good in that as a crazy person. And then, yeah, the ending is another ending that's very memorable when he kind of sees himself as a kid. It's a crazy story, man. I think 12 Monkeys is hugely underrated. I would put it in my top 10 science fiction films because it's a memorable movie in my nostalgia brain when I was a kid. So we view time travel from that perspective. The talk I heard last night, because I was just randomly looking at stuff, the paradox of time travel and shit, that you can't go to the past, you can go to the future and change events from that point forward, from when you invented time travel. Because I was like, well, if you could go back in time, and people have those conversations, if you could go back in time, where would you go? Would you go see Jesus get crucified and try to save him? But that would change the world, wouldn't it? What if you could go back in time and be like, dude, Jesus, get off the cross. You don't have to die, man. Or you could go back to Julius Caesar and be like, dude, uh, your friends in the Senate, they're going to stab you like 60 times. Beware the Ides of March, Julius. Go back to fucking the pharaohs of Egypt, where they had the slaves building the pyramids, supposedly. Or you could really see how the pyramids was built. All of those are valid answers. Some people would say dinosaurs. They want to go back to the dinosaur shit, if dinosaurs are real or not. Dinosaur bones were put there by the devil, damn it. So, what if you could go back? And my thing last night when I was having this weird talk, I would go back to the Big Bang and see what started it. How did it start? Because no one's been able to answer that. The real dilemma of the human brain is an issue of time and existence, because we view everything through our very narrow lens of a life. We're born in a body, we come out of a body, and we live inside a body until we die. We don't know what happens afterwards. Our brains don't function like that. Maybe some people are able to get enlightened like that. Maybe those are the prophets. I don't know, man. Maybe those are the prophets. They have the ability to see outside the body, what they term out of body experiences, or through meditation and breathing exercises, astral or lucid dreaming, the astral plane, all that crazy shit. Maybe some people are able to do that, expand their consciousness like that. I have none of that. I'm trapped in my body, and I feel trapped in a lot of different ways. But that's the only thing I would want to see if I could go back in time. At that point, you're on like the same level as God. You would see how everything started. I'm not talking about I want to see the Big Bang. I want to see just the birth of existence, because to me, I can't comprehend how something could always be. There's nothing that relates to that in my life. Something, even a seed, came from something, or people talk about the chicken and the egg, but what was the seed of the universe? Where did the Big Bang even, what gave it the ability to happen? That's what I'm talking about. If you can go back and see that shit, then you don't need particle accelerators and all that shit. You would be on the same level as God to know what time really represents. That's the only thing that's would be curious to me. I don't care about all the other shit. If evolution happened, I guess you could go back. And I'm kind of looking at time travel as a fact checker. Everything in history that you think is probably bullshit, you could actually go back in time and see if these things actually happened, how they're written in the books. I was joking around. You could go back to Adam and Eve and be like, dude, don't eat the fucking apple, man. And that would solve everything. Because, well, in this scenario, I was saying if Jewish people invented time travel because of Einstein, and I think he was Jewish, the first thing they would do is go back and kill Hitler, right? Be like, all right, this guy killed like everyone in my family. I'm going to go kill this guy. And kill Mussolini and kill whatever the Japanese guy was. And that'll be the end of Nazism. It wouldn't have even started. Maybe something worse would come. I don't know, man. It's a difficult thing to talk about. But really, if you want to go by that perspective, you kill all the evil people that ever existed, then you have to kill a whole lot of people, man. There's been Hitler was the most recent psychopath that tried to kill everyone and take over the world, but there's plenty of people like that throughout the history of the world. Maybe not plenty, but I can't even name any besides like maybe Genghis Khan or Vlad the Impaler. Just real fucking crazy leaders like that. Joe Rogan had somebody on talking about like the Hussein family. One of the sons was like a real psychopath. He would invite people to parties and kill them if he didn't like them. Like, there's some weird stories like that. And that's not that long ago. That's only, 20 years ago. Or the last king of Scotland, wasn't that about the guy from Africa? I can't think of his name. Inni Amin or something. So, yeah, I was thinking instead of doing that, you just go back to Adam and Eve and you get rid of original sin. You say, don't eat the fucking apple. And that would stop people from being ashamed of being human beings. All the judgment and shame and guilt that's passed down, the original sin shit. Not that I really believe in that story, but as a metaphor for life, if you got rid of that and you got rid of that, you don't teach people about hating, hatred and tribalism and shame and guilt, all the stuff that religion kind of sneaks in there through these stories. Maybe just the Catholicism that I grew up with. It was all about feeling guilty and shameful about a lot of things. That's a big selling point when you want to control people. And it was always pointed to original sin. That's why we're like this. Because the fucking apple in the Garden of Eden now fucked it up for everybody. Then the Tower of Babel, separating the world by tribe and language. Yeah, there's a lot of relevance to stuff. I just think it's kind of funny. Looking at like the Dave Chappelle thing, he had that one skit where he goes back in time and he tries to save the slave and during that period of American history. It would be kind of funny to go back in time to the Adam and Eve story, or just have a comedy skit like that. But it's just an apple. You're telling me I can't eat this apple? Dude, you're gonna fuck it up for like generations of people. Don't eat the fucking apple. There's got to be something there in terms of a comedy thing. But where was I going with this? There's got to be something to that where our bodies are like cages. And this is the song by Arcade Fire. I think it was on Neon Bible. Yeah, 2007. My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love, but the mind holds the key. My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love, but my mind holds the key. I'm standing on a stage of fear and self-doubt. It's a hollow play, but they'll clap anyway. My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love, but my mind holds the key. You're standing next to me, my mind holds the key. I'm living in an age that calls darkness light. Though my language is dead, still the shapes fill my head. I'm living in an age whose name I don't know. Though the fear keeps me moving, still my heart beats to slow. That's about it. It kind of repeats everything else. My body is a cage. We take what we're given. Just because you're forgotten, that don't mean you're forgiven. I'm living in an age that screams my name at night. But when I get to the doorway, there's no one in sight. I'm living in an age they laugh when I'm dancing with the one I love, but my mind holds the key. You're standing next to me, my mind holds the key. Set my spirit free. I don't know what he's really talking about too much, but I just like the thought of it. That your body is a cage. As you get older and older, yeah, you're like, fuck this body. I want to go back to my 20-year-old body. Because your body's going to suck when you turn 60, 70, 80. It's not going to be the same. Your body can be a cage, many reasons. Like I just said, because of the Adam and Eve connection, you're ashamed of your naked body. Like there's some guilt involved in sexuality. Maybe he's talking about that. According to Google, it explores the tension between feeling physically and mentally trapped by life circumstances and the liberating power of personal agency. That sounds good. The song captures a struggle with isolation, societal pressures, and the yearning for spiritual and emotional freedom. Yeah, it's good. It's kind of a depressing song because no one can live outside their body unless things happen in the future where you can transfer your consciousness. All that science fiction, Black Mirror stuff becomes an actual means of survival. Instead of freezing yourself like Disney, you just transfer your consciousness to another vessel. Yeah, I don't know what that means. He's talking about setting your spirit free, so I think he's talking more like what I'm feeling right now, what I felt for a long time, if you want to look at my own personal experience. But it's not something that's unique to me. I've had people fuck with my life, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's not the main reason I want to leave my current place in New Jersey, but it's one of the reasons. Whatever I find, but I know nothing good is going to happen to me. In terms of opportunity, it's non-existent. And in this type of area, so there's a part of that as well. I'm a slave to my body. If you want to talk about that, I need to nourish it. I need to keep it healthy. I need to keep it, my brain, my mental faculties. Your body is a very needy master. You can't do anything without your stupid body. People kind of write songs like that Nelly Furtado song, "Free as a Bird" or whatever it is. Yeah, it's a good concept. It's a good theme in songwriting. There's probably a million other songs that I could think of later that relate to that feeling. The song also deals with existential isolation, the philosophical dilemma of being responsible for one's own freedom, yet feeling paralyzed by hesitation and environment. The core resolution of the song is self-realization. No matter how restrictive the outside world might be, true liberation ultimately comes from within. I can get down with that, but sometimes mental frustrations are too deep, and it's hard to get away from it unless you have a physical connection, which to me is just getting the hell out and going somewhere new. Because the mental frustrations I have as I try to make a new plan in life, they're not going away. Even if I travel to Australia and get a job in Australia, which is probably the farthest place I could go, it might take a while before I can become a different person. People try to do that. The reason I took my road trips was because I wanted to get away from my life. I would take road trips to the south through the Blue Ridge Mountains because I didn't want to think about work or any of the other bullshit. In my 30s, that was my escape. It's probably why I'm more frustrated today, because I haven't had anything like that. You need to take a time out from all your daily bullshit, and a lot of people don't get the luxury of that because you need money for that. But let me end this by, I'm going to go through all the songs on this album. The reason I'm doing this, like, again, I wrote these songs back in like 2005, 6, 7, 8. Maybe later than that. I would say 2008 is a safe estimate. Maybe some of them were kind of from older audio files from the early 2000s, but most of the stuff I wrote back then, I listen to it now and it's just totally unusable. But once in a while, there'll be something that captures my attention, a little riff or something. But most of these songs came from 2008, and I never intended to write a story about this. But the first song I came up with, Waitress from Mars, how can you not form that into a comic book? There's a lot of potential for a movie, for a comic book, because it's such a weird concept. Whoever thought of Ninja Turtles, and maybe it was on Netflix, the guys who created the Ninja Turtles, I think it was just two guys, and it was kind of an emotional thing. They talk about how they developed the story and how it just became this global phenomenon where kids today still get into the Ninja Turtles. So who the hell would have ever thought of something like that if you're not on some acid trip? It's four turtles and they're named after famous Renaissance painters. And they're trained by a mutant rat to do fucking karate. And then all the other shit. Like, just to have that general basis, it's such a crazy thing to think about. That's why like even kids can tell what's the most cool imaginary thing. As a kid, it was always Ninja Turtles or He-Man. Um, but I think the Ninja Turtle side of things was more explorative of the imagination because it's such a ridiculous concept. So again, I didn't write this story that I just shared. I didn't write that until 2022, although I had a version of the story already kind of in my head. I just never really put it to paper. My routine before losing my job, I never did stuff like this. I never did anything to share my work with people. I just never did through my 30s when I was really not completely gung ho and doing this as a career because I never thought I could make money from it. I still don't know if I can make at least a survivable income, whether a primary income or secondary income. I don't know what the future holds in terms of that. But there is a lot of potential for a story like this because, I can't do it. I don't know how to draw a comic book, a graphic novel. I don't have that skill. Maybe I should take a class and try to develop that. I'm a doodler. I can doodle till, all day long and come up with some weird shit. That's really what I call myself as a visual artist. I never thought I would make money off my visual art because I don't really think it's that captivating. But it's something I do as a form of therapy and just to get a different type of art form out. When I learned that Joni Mitchell painted, and I think Gillian Welch has some paintings. She did an album cover for Robin Hitchcock or someone. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And there's been a lot of people, even Bob Dylan. I think he has a book of sketches or paintings, and Leonard Cohen, he had a book that I bought recently with paintings or sketches that were pretty interesting. So I think Joni Mitchell had a quote like that she would have never lasted as an artist if she didn't turn to visual arts, abstract art, or whatever she was doing. I think there's a lot of truth to that because you're not going to wake up like a 9 to 5 job and write 20 songs in a day. If you do that, they're probably going to be pretty bad. Like, I kind of did that during my 2022 experience with writing this book, The Hypothetical Poet, My Life in Lyrics. And I still haven't tried to write the new part 2 of this. The next anthology, I haven't even started it. I'm lacking motivation to do anything. Up to about 2 months ago, I was going to the library and I would read or write try to learn Spanish in between that. And I haven't done that in a good 2 months. I gave up on all that shit because I felt like I couldn't make money doing anything. I started applying to jobs and getting nothing, nothing, nothing. And that just built up to this level of frustration where I'm like, fuck this shit. It's a very similar pattern than what I've experienced before. So I might as well do nothing. I had that talk earlier today that I could have lost my job, turned to drugs and alcohol, and I'd probably be dead. I still almost died for other reasons, but I could have turned that direction like a lot of people do because I got fucked over by some, scummy people. I got fucked over and I got done dirty, and I handled that in a different way because I did save money from my 10 years of working. I did save money, enough money to survive for 5 years without looking to get a job. My first thing was I don't want to work for other people because it's going to be the same bullshit. But at this point, I don't have a choice. I have to work for other people and just hope they're good people. I don't know where the story goes from there, but I still think people are good for the most part. I just feel like COVID fucked everybody up. COVID fucked everybody up to some degree. But I'm still feeling the reverberations of it. The painful shit that happened, the dark moments never really left. I said my life is going in a circle where I can't move on because the past is still creeping up in my day-to-day life. It's a shitty type of experience. But hopefully I can get out of that. I'm stuck in the American muck of not having any opportunity in life because I'm looking at getting a job that I can do for the next 20 years. I need to be able to survive for 20 years in my head so I can make all this stuff a reality and do it the best I can to the best of my resources. That's the only way I can do this in a responsible fashion so I don't die on the street somewhere. And getting a job is the first step on that. I don't know if I could do this album myself. I probably couldn't because it is, and I'll demonstrate it right now. This Waitress from Mars is the first song, and I can't do the Sebastian Bach voice. He's the first one I think of. He had the craziest raspy voice for he could have done grunge music if he wanted to. He could have done anything. He could be a gospel choir. Like his voice is just crazy, man. Sebastian Bach. I don't know his stuff at all, but because in the 80s when hair metal was coming up, I was still young. Hair metal was all about fucking, having sex, having crazy, lustful experiences. From what I could recall, at least, watching videos like Cherry Pie, I was like, holy shit. And I was too young. I was still like, I don't know, whenever that came out in the late 80s or early 90s, I was still a kid, not thinking about sex. So hair metal is weird. I don't think I could perform this album myself. There's certain things I don't have confidence in singing like Sebastian Bach or Queensryche, that type of Operation Mindcrime voice. I don't think I could do that. Believably, I don't think I could do rap music. I would have to do spoken word stuff. So this is an album where I'm only the songwriter, and I would need other people who actually want to do this stuff. So Waitress from Mars is like invasion through eyes, suspended disbelief, antennas guys, highest rise of fire, cynics touched, dent, dent, spread out the vulnerable, alone one more night, dent, dent, ruins around the bend. But you got to do it with the Sebastian Bach voice. Invasion through eyes, suspended disbelief. It's a type of singing that, yeah, I don't know how people do it. Even like who's the guy from Iron Maiden and shit like that, or Dio. There's a type of, it's almost like crooning, the heavy metal crooner. Even you want to put John Bon Jovi in there because he can hit crazy high notes too. And he has that flavor. Try singing Living on a Prayer. It's like a very difficult song to sing. I think there's even modulation. He might skip a key or go up a key. I'm not sure about that. Maybe during the chorus, towards the end, maybe it skips a key like that. I don't know. I'm just saying that type of singing is very complicated. There's that movie with Mark Wahlberg where he becomes the heavy metal singer. And yeah, it's a full-time job, man. You have to really practice that shit. I don't have confidence in myself to be able to do that. I think I could develop a punk rock voice, like a Jello Biafra. I could develop something like that if I write some new wave music, like David Byrne, spoken word, Patti Smith style stuff. I think I could handle that if I have cool music and I just do spoken word, Velvet Underground with limited melody vocalizations. I think I could do stuff like that on my own. But an album like this, which is a very specific concept, I don't know how far I could take it. So I was starting to make a list of albums I could do myself. And it's mostly punk stuff, spoken word stuff. There's going to be maybe 10 to 20 albums that I would need to work with other people because I don't have the vocal abilities or the guitar chops to make crazy solos and stuff. And I don't know if I could really develop that skill at this point in my life, even if I practice 8 hours a day, which might not be available to me. So yeah, it sucks, man. I haven't played a guitar in probably close to a year, and it's not cool. I'm losing that ability. I think I could pick it up quickly again because I had a unique way of playing, but the longer I wait, the worse it is. So it's a very frustrating experience, and yeah, it's got to break at some point because I've dealt with enough bullshit where I feel like this is finally going to go somewhere. Maybe I don't know if it's going to be this story. Is this will be my origin story that somehow Aubrey Plaza will hear about this and get interested in the project. She knows people, and it becomes a production, and they tell me to write the screenplay, and I could finally start a financially profitable career. Whether this is an animation or not, because I don't know yet. I don't know how hard it is to even make a series like The Boys, which I liked in the beginning, and then I thought it got too political. That Amazon show The Boys, which is like a kind of a satire on superheroes, a dark comedy, a lot of political undertones, political overtones. They kind of overdo it with the politics. But the look of the show is amazing. The cinematography, the CGI stuff's crazy. Stranger Things, that type of stuff is really cool. I just don't know how difficult it is to produce a movie like that. All right, let me finish this song. The bridge of the song. Uneven every season stole their memory and longing, strangest love of all. Far beyond the tuning, meditate without control, another mind designated to the waitress from Mars. Dun, 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 dun. The waitress from Mars. Dun, 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 dun. The waitress from Mars. So I can't even pretend to do that Sebastian Bach thing, like the waitress. It sounds so stupid when I try it. So yeah, I don't think I could do a song like this. But I was writing this 20 years ago. For some reason, that's just how it came out. I never thought when I first recorded that melody into my phone 20 years ago, I probably never thought it would still be a thing today. I'm like, all right, that sounds kind of cool. Let me record this so I don't forget it after vending beer on my head for 3 hours. The verse three is bred through the wire, delusional sabotage, phantom flux, dun, 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 pattern subliminal, like frost in fire. Hearts as predictable to harvest time, now viewing their own decline. Uneven every season stole their memory and longing strangest love of all. Far beyond the tuning, meditate without control, another mind designated to the waitress from Mars. Dun, 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 dun. The waitress from Mars. So you want to make this as heavy. Does it have a bit of cheesiness to it? Of course. I'm singing about a waitress from Mars. Like, yeah, it's cheesy, but who cares? You get away with it. If you incorporate 80s hair metal, who cares, man? You put some guitar solos in there, you have a really good singer, and it's a decent melody that could become better if it's done professionally. To the waitress from Mars. And there's so much potential. If the movie is a hit, then there'll be a soundtrack. So I don't know any, like, I'll go back to Guardians of the Galaxy because I love the songs they used. That's the first time I learned of Elvin Bishop and fooled around and fell in love. And then I learned of him and I fell in love with his music. He's got a live album, like Live from Hell or something. I don't know what it's called. But the Guardians of the Galaxy was a really good soundtrack. Elvin Bishop, right? That's his name. I don't think he's the one that sings on that song. It's somebody else, which I never knew until recently, actually. Elvin Bishop. Like, that's one of the best grooves, I think, that Fooled Around and Fell in Love. It's such a good song, man. Elvin Bishop, Live. Yeah, Live, Raising Hell. Um, Now I'm curious who sang that song. Because for many years I thought it was him that actually sang it, but he was just a famous blues player in other bands, I think. Um, yeah, Mickey Thomas, wherever he came from, he sang the lead vocals on the 1976 hit Fooled Around and Fell in Love. Although it was released as an Elvin Bishop single, blah, blah, blah. Elvin Bishop felt that his own voice wasn't suited for the melodic track. So even him, a very famous, talented musician, was like, my voice sucks for this. I need somebody else. And that's cool he did that because that song is very powerful, man. Uh, it's just instantly, the first time you hear it, you're like, wow, that song is just fucking incredible. Um, yeah, I guess he was more of a guitar prodigy. I don't know enough about him, to be honest. All right, I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna try to sing these songs. I do have melodies and everything. Like this song number two is called Philosopher Kings. And it's like light dun, 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 took a hold of me. Dun, 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 dun. Time took control of me. So this one might be even more crazy, influenced by Operation Mindcrime. God, dun, 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 for a monthly fee to soothe dun, 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 every reckoning. Verse 2, life of designated lies, love to liberate the tide, teased dun, 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 by the fear of heights, frauds, or just spirits tied. Then he goes into the chorus, like the old man said, there'll be days of fog with some illumination. Like the old man said, they'll be fading forward, saving for the drift. Then it goes back to the verse. Reborn, dun, 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 then charmed with a smile. The relief, dun, 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 of a structure fire. When she calls, dun, 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 will the trust convey and overthrow every satellite? This one could be like very, yeah, like I said, it's Operation Mindcrime. If you don't know Operation Mindcrime, just go listen to that if you want to know what I'm going for. The guitar sound, the type of vocals and the harmonies, it's a really brilliant album. All right, let's go a little quicker. The third song is called Ascetic Guilds. This was an early song I had. I recorded on my flip phone around that same time period. When I recorded Waitress from Mars, I recorded this one. Sterilization politics. You're gonna crash, you're gonna burn, you're gonna crash, you're gonna power seduced at your fingertips. You're gonna crash, you're gonna burn, you're gonna crash, you're gonna burn. That's the chorus, and you should develop a more powerful transition there. Burn, never quite sympathetic. The awkward pause before the stars reform their glow. Repeat as necessary. What's the point of thought? With the source uncorked, unplugged. Assemble terrorists. Sunrise within, strangers in the wild. We're gonna crash, we're gonna burn, we're gonna crash, we're gonna miracle stout, war and ignorance. We're gonna crash, we're gonna burn, we're gonna crash, we're gonna burn. Never as desperate, the foolish dice, as the stars distract the pull. Nestled chemistry, what's the point of love? With the moon prescribed, unplugged. Tradition's confident. And that's a perfect time for a solo there. I didn't mention Guns N' Roses because, I don't know, Guns N' Roses as a kid to me, they were a bit cooler than like the hair metal bands, I think. I don't know, I guess they're like the heroin chic element of heavy metal. More of classic rock elements, better songwriting. Axl Rose was like a big Elton John fan. November Rain just demonstrates the songwriting capability. I think he took like 10 years to write that or some shit. Or perfect it. So Guns N' Roses is connected to hair metal. It's in the family, but I think it's more like biker rock, if that's a genre. Like, I think it's like biker rock. You're not going to see these tough bikers tatted up. They're not going to be listening to John Bon Jovi or even like Warrant, or I can't think of any cheesy bands like that. Like even I'm going to say that I hate what's that band, Def Leppard. I hate them. I think they're the shittiest band of all time. I don't like criticizing stuff, but because I'm talking about hair metal, Def Leppard to me is like probably the worst band ever created. I don't know why. I know they're talented people. It's just one of those weird things where I hear a Def Leppard song and I'm like, man, this is terrible. It's like annoying. I don't understand why it Pour Some Sugar on Me is like the worst song ever. Like, I respect them for their musicianship and their talent. I just don't connect to the songs, I guess. I've given them a chance, but I consider them, I guess, a part of hair metal. All right, so there's an outro to this song. What's this song called again? The Ascetic Guilds. The outro is just kind of a slowed down chanting. Now's the time to find out why. Now's the time to find out why. You could keep repeating that as an outro, getting heavier and heavier. Now's the time to find out why. And then just get crazy breakdown to end the song. there's an element to hair metal with the with a part of a song like that. I think it fits the mood and energy of this. Song number 4 is called New Liberty Part 1, and it's kind of similar melody to the last song. Bring your poor and damaged, bring your haunted liberty, bring your uninvited, bring your crimson company. Some are left unfinished, some are blessed to fall, some are new arrivals, some are stoned upright, some are pawns for pity, some are bodies caged, some are human beings. I don't know if you would need 2 voices there, probably. It's kind of hard to get the timing right. Some are left unfinished, some are blessed to fall. So you might need 2 different vocal choirs there, or whatever. 2 different voices at least. Verse 2, bring your native image, bring your rationality, bring your superstition, bring your flat earth fantasies. Back to the chorus. Some are left unfinished, some are blessed to fall, some are new arrivals, some are stoned upright, some are pawns for pity, some are bodies caged, some are human beings. And there's an outro to this one as well. I kind of wrote it in this fashion as an outline, these song structures, because I picture guitar solos. Just have some weird guitar solos here to carry the song out. And that would lead to the outro with some more lyrics flowing in and out. And it's another version of competing vocals or overlapping vocals. Some are left unfinished, some are blessed to fall. And you just end on that line. Some are blessed to fall. Some are blessed to fall. Jin, 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 jin. Some are blessed to fall. Maybe this is a part of the story where they become the zombie army. I don't know. I did it like this. I wanted to read the story first so I could connect it to the lyrics a little. But I kind of feel like I wrote these lyrics before I wrote the story, so I don't know if it really has a correlation like that, but who cares? If the melodies are good, that's really my biggest concern. This song is called Free Markets. Cross through the reverie, sold out on misery, celebrated reminders. Pride vaxing in disguise, tongue-tied, Mr. Know-It-All bought the farm. Minds withdrawn, dun, dun, dun. Then it goes into this crazy epic chorus, like, they take all, dun, dun, dun. They refuse, they take all, they confuse, they take all, dun, dun, dun. They refuse, they take all, they confuse. So yeah, the chorus is very catchy. I like this chorus. I'm kind of surprised that I remember how these songs go. I thought I would have to pause these videos and go back to my original recordings. But so far, I remember how these songs go. Verse 3, stalking recovery, drawn out to bleed the sea, flight low, censored pull. My timing isn't correct, but it's close enough. Priced out by cheap defeats, what pleasure in disbelief will defy. Staged in light, and then back to the chorus. They take all, they refuse. And you can picture the harmony voices on this. The higher register would sound really cool. They take all. That's where I run into problems. I can't get there, man. To do that type of squeal, I can't get there. I have to grab my balls. They take all, they're confused. So I make fun of Bon Jovi songs because it does get cheesy, but yeah, I wish I could sing like that. And then it goes into a bridge to kind of bring it to a different level. Never cross the river in time. Never shred the question in time. Never jump the border in time. Never bless the message in time. And while someone is singing that, someone is singing one and one is, one and one is. Almost like the George Orwell thing going back to 1984, 2 plus 2 equals 5. There's an element to that in Operation Mindcrime. It is about mind control. That's basically what it's about. It's about brainwashing, mind controlling people through propaganda and other more insidious ways. So that's probably why I was developing this type of lyrical passage. One and one is, one and one is, one and one is. And then you go back to the chorus for the outro. They take all, they refuse, they take all, they confuse. I'm not going to go through all these lyrics, but there's other overlapping melodies. And then you kind of go through a spoken word part to end it. Brand name currents, one and one is. Brand name cues, one and one is. Brand name calling, one and one is. Brand name cures, one and one is. Brand name crash, one and one. Brand name cross, brand name cunning, brand name charm. And then you just kind of end it from that point, like very abrupt ending, because I like that sometimes. All right, this next song is called The Space Between. I'm trying to go through these quickly because, of course, I can't sing it like I want to, so I get kind of embarrassed. I get mad because I want to sing it in a different way, but I don't have the talent or the ability to do it. I don't know where I could develop it. If I could get good at it, maybe at some point. This song's called The Space Between. It's more of a love song, I think. And this is very influenced by the ELO. There's an ELO track. Maybe I can try to find it and share it later off of the album Time. And it's got a similar melody. It led me to write this song. It's not a complete copy, but I'll share it later to just give credit to it because I really love that album. And I speak of Tom Petty all the time, one of my favorite songwriters. But yeah, Jeff Lynne, I think he wrote most of the songs. I'm not sure. But yeah, he's just a crazy talented dude in terms of songwriting and singing and everything. Production. All right, this song's called The Space Between. Let me try to remember it. At the ending and the start, when the medication wore off, gentler chemical rights. And now the heavens blend the dark as their concentration combust. Eyes deceive the trust. I'm singing this way crazy out of any kind of key. I can't get the right tone to my voice on this one because it's more of a ballad. I'm in trying to be a heavy metal, hair metal singer, and now it's more like Jeff Lynne. But this is really the one song that's an outlier like that. At the ending and the start, when the medication wore off, gentler chemical rights. And now the heavens blend the dark as their concentration combust. Eyes deceive the trust. Some will end up dragged and drained ever desperate in the rain, never notice space between. The stranger it gets, the stranger it's always been. Yeah, this one needs a lot of work because I don't really remember how some of the melodies go. Some will end up dragged and drained, ever desperate in the rain, never notice space between. The stranger it gets, the stranger it's always been. And if you can picture this as an ELO song, maybe people will form better melodies. Never thought they'd make the mark when the medication refreshed. Facing nuclear doubts. And now the balance more absurd as the dealer checks the count. Finally coming down. So yeah, it's a different type of feel to this. It probably would be acoustic guitar. Try to make it kind of spacey in terms of like the production style. And of course, it goes back to the ELO album Time, the production on that, which I really fell in love with. I didn't think I was going to like it when I first found that album maybe 5 years ago. And I was like, all right, let me look up. I was doing that thing where I was like, let me make Spotify playlists of every year from 1960 and beyond, whatever it was. And I'm like, I'm going to look up the best albums on every year. And at some point, I'll just randomly listen to these playlists on a shuffle, and whatever sparks my interest, I'll listen to the entire album. That's what I was kind of doing when I was trying to do year-end list, my best favorite albums of 2025, 2026, or before that. I would make a big playlist 2025 and then just play it on shuffle. And the first song that caught my attention, I would listen to the entire album. And I thought that was a cool way to do it. Because a lot of the artists I had no familiarity with. I'm not up to date with new music like I should be, I guess. I don't know if that's just because of my state of mind right now. I'm not very motivated to listen to new music right now. It was different in the past because I would be excited to find new material, and I would like to support people on Bandcamp. Excuse me. I would like to support people on Bandcamp. I know more underground artists that need more support, but I kind of gave up on that because I don't have a job anymore. The first thing that goes when there's a bad economy, the first thing that goes is arts. Just like in a school, they need to cut something. It's either going to be the art programs or shit like that. It's a problem, man. Because without this outlet, I don't think I'd still be alive right now. I think a lot of people could have similar stories like that. Without the artistic process, the creative process to try to deal with existence and all the bullshit, I don't think I would still be here. I probably really would have killed myself. So I don't really like that. I get sports is important because I'm a fan of sports. But you hear that a lot, that art programs don't get funded, whether during school or after school. They're always the first things to go because it's not viewed as an important thing in certain societies. But where would people be without music and art? We would be way more violent, wanting to kill each other every day, I think. Everyone would be like the Real Housewives with this no means of escape. The only way I escape right now is podcast. I can't even enjoy music too much. I found a couple albums a few days ago as I was reading my books. I found some ambient albums that impressed me enough to add to my list of favorite albums of my life or whatever. I really just add to that list on first listen. If it hits me, it hits me. If it doesn't, it doesn't. All right. This song is called Olympus, and it's kind of a different we're back to heavier music. And this might be my favorite song, actually. I think this came from a different album, but it fit the mood of this one, so I just changed it. This song was on a different album, I think Disappearing Act. I think I was messing around with Dadgad tuning, D-A-D-G-A-D, Dadgad, and this one came out. I'm not sure if I can remember how to play it, so I'll have to come up with a different arrangement. But this intro is like an opera. Traces of the gods, mythic stereo, social engineer, unity in fear, faces in the flames, guided astral plane, slander freed below, unity in chains. So I think that would be a cool intro with some, I wanted to say gospel choir, but any type of choir that has a powerful voice like an opera singer. Traces of the gods. And then you go right into the other part of this song, which is more just the one voice and a heavy type of 80s metal, I guess. When the body responds, dun, 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 echoes the flood, dun, 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 dun. Pawns conform, dun, 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 under different controls, dun, 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 dun. Welcome back to the front, dun, 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 dun. Facing the past, dun, 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 dun. Quicker pace at the end, dun, 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 dun. Washed in dreams. You could probably do some instrumental there. And there's two more verses, so you probably want to break that up. The third verse, turned away from the coast, dun 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 dun, clouded skies, dun 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 dun, blood confused, dun 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 dun, dun. Remnants fried, dun 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 dun, terraformed, dun 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 dun, organ struck. So the board, dun 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 dun, nights unfurled, dun dun. You go to another instrumental, and then through that you go to another outro, which is just probably spoken word. Love holds the line. Love holds the line. I honestly forget how that melody goes, and I don't feel looking it up right now. But I'm sure I would probably come up with something new or build on the original recording that I have for this. All right, how many songs left here? 3 songs? Yeah, 3 more songs. So this is song 7, I believe. Agent 999. This is very fast-paced, almost like a punk song. They will never, ever raise the dead. Bred as witness, loyal to the end. Screen the latest, tempered origin. Forms fitted, victim of the stench. Tune to sacred frequencies. Listen day and night for free. But left unspent, left unspent, left unspent, left unspent, do. They would never, ever form the link, death forgiven, vessel to the fringe. Hit the pavement, highest harmony. Died in visions as iridescent beams. Tune to sacred frequencies. Listen day and night for free. But left unspent, left unspent, left unspent. This is almost like a thrash punk song, I think. The outro goes back to an earlier melody, I think, because I'm honestly forgetting some of these later songs. In a world with colors inside, in a world with colors inside. And you probably just keep repeating that. I think that's what I was going for. As the other vocalization goes, higher frequencies, higher frequencies, in a world with colors inside. And that's probably something I'll have to work on, the ending of this song. But I do have all these audio files, which would probably give me a better direction of how to go about some of these melodies, but let's keep going. This one is called Serum, and it's more of a slow burn, I think. And it might also be a dadgad tuning when I first came up with this. I think that's what it was, because, my memory isn't that good. I can't think 15 years ago when I was in my apartment exploring dadgad tuning. I can't go back that far in my head to kind of develop the same feeling. But I'm pretty sure this one was also on Disappearing Acts. And I had to rearrange that album completely because I wanted Waitress from Mars to be more provocative, more original stuff in terms of my own songwriting, because I'm never going to try to write songs like this again. I'll never try to write 80s hair metal ever again in my life, most likely. I don't think I ever return to this type of songwriting. Although some of these songs are different, just like Operation Mindcrime, they're very talented in how they flowed that album. I think it is kind of long, but it flows pretty well. So this is called Serum. I think that it's a weird rhythm, like dun 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 dun, kind of like the last one or one of the other ones. A lot of these songs have a similar sense because I wrote them all at the same time. This is called Serum. I'll try to remember how the melodies go. Into the garden, twisting the truth, universe bonded, tremors of kings, won't ever return, free to be fooled again, pulling at strings, let the right one into the garden, cursing the cure, aiming a portion, passing the void, won't ever recede, no premonitions, never be steady, main contradiction. And that's all the verses are. Yeah, I know I can't sing this right now. But the melody's cool. I can hear the melody. I don't know if I'm expressing it in the right way. Into the garden. 1, 2, 3. It's a waltz. Yeah, it's a waltz. Into the garden. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Cursing the cure. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Aiming a portion. 3. 1, 2, 3. Passing the void. 2, 3. Won't ever receive. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. No premonition. Never be steady. Main contradiction. And then the outro. You would need a lot of music in this one because for some reason I only wrote those 2 verses. I don't have any other parts really. So I guess this is kind of a shorter song based on this at least. Like, I'm not trying to be fake. I don't remember a lot of this stuff because that's my style. I would write something, put it to my crappy recorder just to have the melody. I could go back to it later, and that's how I did it. So I have so many songs on this in this book. There's over 400 songs. I don't remember every little bit to every song. The process I would do if I was able to do my Kickstarter, I pick an album that I think I can do, and I start like that. I go an album at a time. Well, of course, that's the only way to do it. I'm not trying to write hit singles. I'm going to take an album at a time that I think I can do, and I'm going to do it the best of my ability. So, yeah, it's hard for me to go through this without reminding myself how these songs go. But that's basically the whole song. Whatever music I come up with, it would be more like a shoegaze experience where I think shoegaze music is the type of thing I should be doing. I should never be trying to do heavy metal because I can't sing like is his name Bruce Dickinson? People mention him. I think Ozzy Osbourne's voice is amazing. I don't think he gets enough credit, but Ozzy was an amazing vocalist. Heavy metal singers, yeah, I think of Sebastian Bach right off the bat. Like I mentioned his name already, but a lot of them did sound similar. Like the way emo happened in the early 2000s. I feel like emo singers all sounded the same too, which wasn't as cool after a while. I think that's why emo kind of fell. Uh, there wasn't enough variety. It was too much of the same thing all at once. And I guess you can say that about a lot of different genres, country music, rap. A lot of it is so generic and almost like artificial intelligence is writing some of the shit. All right, let me finish this off. One last song. It's called New Liberty Part 2. And I think it's a slow burn. I think this one is kind of a slow ballad. But I don't remember how these melodies go. It's something like reunited on the wall, souls unrecognizable. Where do we call home? I don't remember how this goes, man. This is a song I would have to go back and listen to. Um, I don't know how heavy this song gets. I don't remember the flow of it, but maybe I'll remember the other parts. I remember the outro because that's a very memorable melody. Like you got to be fair with me. Um, it's amazing. I remember how some of these songs go. This was the only one I don't remember. I haven't looked at these songs in literally over a year, probably. And the fact that it still lives in my brain, it's a problem. I can't get it out until I actually record this shit. I think that's a similar thing people deal with. Last night I had ideas for songs again, for a couple lyrics the last couple nights, and I just didn't feel like doing it. The motivation level is just done for me. I can get through this because these are songs I already did, and it's cool to revisit things after a couple of years, but I'm saying too much now. All right, let me finish this song first, then I'll talk for a little bit more. The outro of the song is kind of an epic kind of release. Kings for a day. Unconscious fates. Emotion decays. Love finds a way. But did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? And that's kind of how I kind of wrote that, and I think I stole this ending melody from a different song because of the story. It ends with Debbie and Eric on the cliff as the earth goes to this purple haze. I think this song kind of was inspired by that last scene, I think. But yeah, I can't really do much more unless I pause this and listen to this song, but I don't feel like doing that right now after 3 hours of talking. But that's basically it, all of it. Some of it is more hair metal than others. Like this last song probably doesn't have much hair metal to it. Yeah, I'm trying to remember it, but it's just not in my head right now. Risk contagious, drawing straws, freaks to wonder in the song where the symmetry blooms. I don't know if this is spoken word or if there is a melody. I don't remember how it goes. So I'll have to remember this later. But I don't think I could do this album on my own. As you can tell, I'm just trying to get the melodies out. If I really prepared to sing this and practiced it for a week and really got in that mode, took vocal lessons, did the whole 9 yards like that, I don't know how good I could get. Because people still perform into their 40s and 50s and 60s, 70s, but it depends on the type of music. John Popper, Blues Traveler, I think they still tour. They still play shows. And his voice is still good. I watched a YouTube clip of him from a couple of years ago, and his voice is still pretty powerful. Maybe it's like riding a bike. Once you get the hang of it as a vocalist, then you could come back to it and find your Zen place. I don't know, man. There's certain types of music that I'm not very confident in, and this is one of them. The type of heavy metal that this album would highlight, that type of crooning metal singer, it might be the most difficult type of vocalization. But, that's not something I'm worried about. To me, as long as the songs are there, and in addition to the songs, this album actually has a story, and there's a lot of potential for not only, well, my age group. I'm talking to myself. I wrote this in my 30s, now I'm in my 40s. But as a kid, I think there could be a cool relationship. I would point to the Stranger Things, how Stranger Things took Metallica, Master of Puppets, right? And they introduced Metallica to the new generation. I think that's a good way to look at it. That, yeah, even kids could get interested in a movie like this. If I was 10 years old, 11 years old, and there was a movie called Waitress from Mars, and, the trailer looks interesting with action scenes and cool visuals from the 80s, even though kids today won't know what the 80s was like. But, well, a lot of those kids played Vice City like I did, or watched other movies that are set in the 1980s. I go back to the 80s because, I don't know, it's such a weird decade. Same thing with hair metal. I don't think 80s culture will ever come back because it's such a weird decade. It really is. If you look at time as decade by decade, I think the 80s is the most unusual. The 60s was bound to happen because you just had World War II, you had Vietnam, and people were sick of all the shit, so they became hippies and the peace and love, one love, free sex, free love. Let's try these weird drugs to get out of this system. It was bound to happen because the government, the politics was so the opposite. The 80s was weird though. I don't know, man. It became the beginning of corporate America, really. The 70s, maybe not so much, but the beginning. I point to that Fargo season where the one character at the end, one of the only gang members that survived that season with the Kansas City mob. I forget the character's name, the black actor, and he goes in to get a corporate job, and they're talking about 401ks and shit. This guy was like a hitman. He was a soldier for the Kansas City Mafia. Now he's going to get a corporate job with a 401k. I think there's a lot to that stays in my memory banks, like how the 70s, the dream of the 60s died. The 70s kind of maintained some sentiment of that. And then the 80s came where it became totally corporate culture. I was talking earlier today that the reason people are fucked up is the corporatization of American society through social media, where image is everything. Image, image, image. People are vain as fuck. People are vain, man. People are more narcissistic today than I think when I was growing up. In my eyes, you're constantly addicted to a social media platform, or you were in the past. You're addicted to it because you want to purvey, is that the word? You want to display a version of yourself that is like so fake, but you want to make it real because for whatever reason it doesn't happen in your real life. So you use social media as a form of like personal propaganda to promote this fake identity. I have a song on a different album called Social Media Suicide about when I would get so tired of social media platforms, I would delete everything. I did it with Twitter all the time. I would delete all my tweets. I did it with YouTube, where I had like 5,000 videos to watch later because I would always be like, oh, that looks cool, that looks cool. And it took me like 3 days to delete all these fucking videos. So I just stopped doing all of it. Liking stuff, I stopped liking videos, saving stuff for later, I still make playlists for myself. But yeah, social media is weird. I don't know how kids handle it. It's better to just stay off it as much as possible. I'm only on Instagram once every 2 weeks. I give myself one Saturday after I donate blood. Like tomorrow, I'm going to donate blood. After I'm done, I go on Instagram for whatever I want to do, just for that one day, because it's not going to help me make money. It's a waste of time, like Facebook used to be. Could it possibly help me? It could if I meet the right people. But in reality, it's a waste of time. And I was getting way too addicted to it. It was getting more about sexuality than anything. It became like a weird type of social engineering like that. But it's still cool. I still enjoy it. I put all my doodles on there, so I appreciate that. Instagram is the only one I would probably keep. Substack, well, Medium too, but Medium seems to be boring. I don't really ever really go on there unless I'm posting something to Substack. I think because I started with Substack, it became my main source of sharing stuff with people. But of course, I've had no success with any of these things. But Instagram's fun because I look at it more like just for my visual art. I'll share my other links to other stuff, but it doesn't help me. I was hopeful that I could get a Facebook profile. I'm on Twitter, but it's not verified. You got to pay to get verified. I'm on LinkedIn, but that doesn't do anything. I'm on a couple other ones, Blue Sky. The only one I'm not allowed to go on is Facebook, which is very odd because it's the same company. Instagram is a part of Facebook, a part of Meta, whatever it's called. So it's a lot of weird shit. Social media it's a tool that you just have to use to the best of your abilities. But I think it's a lot of bullshit. You get enough bullshit in the real world where why do you want to keep it going on digital platforms? There's enough bullshit going to the grocery store. Like, that's why I limit myself. But right now, I'm not doing shit. All I'm doing is watching, for the last week or 2 weeks, I just eat shit and watch stupid stuff on YouTube. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do until I get a job. It's not really good, but I really don't care at this point. Doing nothing and doing everything I did in the past gets me to the same place. In my mind, it's sad to say, but the motivation, until I get a job, there is no motivation to do shit. It's just the state of the economy, the state of the world, of my world. I don't want to say everyone's in this position, but my state of mind right now is there. It doesn't matter if I work all day and night on something or if I do nothing, I'm going to get the same exact outcome. There's no motivation. There's no carrot or stick. There's nothing. There's no difference between, I guess I could just collect unemployment for the next 6 months or collect welfare because I don't have motivation to try to grow this because I don't know what else to do. It's a problem when it comes to marketing because when it comes to being a marketable writer or artist, you have to know the right people, and I don't know anybody. I don't know the right people or the wrong people. I almost got scammed by some I don't want to name it who it was, but there's some publishing companies that try to rip people off. They're more of glamour. I think it was called glamour publishing, where you're just publishing stuff to say you publish something. Oh, look at this fake publishing company published my book, but I got no money for it, and it wasted me $5,000. That's what it seemed like it was. So there's so many scammy people. It's hard to get into that world unless you actually know people. So I'm trying to do that. I'm in New Jersey, so some people would say just go to New York. But if I'm going to make a move and live on my own, survive on my own accord, I'll move into California or Arizona or New Mexico or Las Vegas, that area. Because even if I get stuck somewhere, I can move somewhere else. If I'm going to make a move at this point in my life, yeah, I'm not going to move to New York City. Just like I'm not going to move to Los Angeles. Too many people, it's too expensive. I'm trying to find some good in-between place that's not too far away, but also close enough to the action where I could possibly meet the right people. Because it's still, there's nothing that's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be like in a different place, but I know what to expect in New Jersey, and that's nothing. So the only logical conclusion is to move far away. I thought about New Orleans because there's, people associate New Orleans with music and art. I've been there one time, long time ago. I thought about Miami just because the weather's so good. I thought about Nashville, same reasons. So I'm trying to really spread this out because I don't care about, a red state or blue state. I don't care. I just want to live in a place where I can get an honest job and earn an honest wage so I don't go homeless. I don't care what it is. I don't even know what color those states are. California, of course, is crazy Democrats. Texas is probably more crazy Republicans. But, it's not going to affect my life. I'm just trying to make art and survive as an artist. So I'm open to any of those places because that fits what I want to do for the next 20 years. Even Texas, which I never thought I would want to move there, but Texas is like a different country. You might as well give it a shot. If it sucks, it sucks. But I don't think you could judge a state by stereotypes. Like, I'll talk shit about New Jersey because of the bad times I've had in New Jersey, the lack of opportunity and other bullshit. I don't know how it's going to be other places, but I know for a fact what New Jersey gives me, and it's nothing. Absolutely no opportunity for any success. So, of course, there's no other choice. Um, I'll keep doing this, see where I can go to tomorrow. The other album I'll do is Songs from the Rhine, which was the first one I ever did over 20 years ago. I'll go through that tomorrow like I went through this one today. And it might take a little bit longer because it's 24 songs. It's 2 albums. But there's a lot of waltzes. I remember that. There might be some songs that I don't remember because it's 24 songs. But I'll see how I do it tomorrow. The reason I started that album was because of Hazards of Love, and I'll get into that tomorrow. That's one of my favorite albums. If this one is a tribute, in a way, to Operation Mindcrime, because, of course, it's got in this story, the blue consciousness and red consciousness, these alien spirits taking over human bodies, almost like a demonic possession or angelic possession, either side of the coin, whatever side you're on. I don't want to criticize Satanists as bad people. Like, do Satanists like root for the devil in all horror movies? If I would like to hang out with some Satanists and watch like a demon movie to see how they root for the devil. I would assume so. Or they're all New Jersey Devil fans. Arizona State, Sun Devils, Duke Blue Devils. Duke, I always knew it. Duke, they're a bunch of Satanists, man. The Duke Blue Devils, they worship Satan. I guess that's all. When I start talking nonsense like that, it's probably time to end this shit. But I'm going to continue this. I didn't think I was going to talk this long. It's almost 3 hours. What else can I say about this story before I go? I don't know. I think like I said, there's potential for that old-fashioned nostalgia. When a cool movie came out, the last one I could think of is Guardian of the Galaxies, because that was a crazy successful movie. It had a large audience where kids could go see it, adults liked it, everyone in between. Like, it's a perfect movie to make a shit ton of money. I think they made some sequels, maybe 1 or 2. I don't remember. I don't even know what it's based on. If it's a comic book, I'm sure it's something. But I'm not that big of a nerd. I'm not making fun of nerds. That's just the term for it. I've never read comic books in my life. I tried to get into it these last few years. I mentioned it before. There's a author on Amazon where I buy it on my Kindle, at least. I'm sure he's available other places, but he brought back the Ninja Turtles and made comic books out of it. And I bought a bunch of them just for nostalgia value, but I never really got into it. I bought Demon Slayer to try to read it because people in my family were talking about it, but I never got into it to really say I'm a fan of it. I haven't reached that point of getting into anime yet. So, yeah, I definitely nerd out. If you listen, or when I listen to this recording back again, I nerded out a lot. Speaking of Planet of the Apes and movies like that, they're classic movies, but there is a nerdiness to it. Like, I love that movie. I don't really like the new versions of it. The newer ones, I don't know how many there have been, but those didn't affect me the same way. The original is usually the best. I think sequels just kind of degrade things. Planet of the Apes went on for a long time. In the 60s, I'm saying there was a lot, in the 70s, there was a lot of sequels, but I don't think the newer ones of the 2000s were of equal value in terms of, because you already know what to expect. There was no shock value. People in the 60s that saw Planet of the Apes, they were probably talking about it for weeks. They're like, this is the craziest movie ever. He was in fucking Earth the whole time, man. Dr. Sayus, Dr. Sayus. But you can't get that same feeling living in the world today because it takes a really original idea to shock people. I guess M. Night Shyamalan was successful with The Sixth Sense. The Usual Suspects, that was a good one. Kaiser Soze. I have a song called about Kaiser Soze, strutting like Kaiser Soze. But I guess I'll end it here. I don't think, my last statement, I don't think this story has a twist ending, but if anything, it has the potential for a sequel. And that's what I'm more interested in anyway. Sometimes I have twists, but not really. I'm more concerned with just having good characters and an original enough story because people, if this got made into a movie, obviously people would say, oh, he's just making a new version of this and this and this. And that's all true, yeah. I've cited all the influences for the most part. I think I've been very honest about things. I'm not trying to copy off of people. That's always my biggest fear, and I don't think this one copies off of any other artist.